All right. Welcome to the Arun Show. I've taken over the show. No, I'm joking. It's just me for a couple days. Prad will be back. Valeriia will be back next week for anyone wondering. So it'll just be me for today, and I'm sure you'll have Prad back at some point this week, either tomorrow or maybe the day after. And then Platinum Pride in the house, most likely at some point next week. I know we've given the date of February 14th, but that may be up in the air a little bit. So give it some time. It will happen. You guys put in the work, so we'll make sure it happens. But it might be delayed by a little bit. So Valeriia may not get her Valentine's Day gift as Platinum Prad, but definitely be back. It'll be nice to have them back. It'll be nice for me to go back to, my cave. So for today, I'm going to start off with the two trades that I've still got going. And then there's one big regret that I've got today. And in a way, it's funny, but it's funny because it's already happened and it's too late to do anything about. But I'll start off. I've got Amgen long up at $1.42. Amgen this morning kind of took off. Let me grab there you go. Amgen took off, took out some daily levels around that 236. So we got that run up. I got it on the pull back down. So 236 was a long, and we went down to like 234 and bounced all the way back up towards the highs. I wanted to give it a chance to let it go, but because of the way it was trading, I was like, I got to be careful. Took some out. I'll still trail the rest out. I just don't want to deal with the double top up here. It's a tricky situation because there isn't a whole lot I can use in terms of information to figure out what levels I have up top. So 14, hold on, that's the wrong one. Daily on Amgen, here we go. So this is what Amgen did, right? It cleared this like 235, 236. That's the only reason I'm long. So the fact that we took this out allows me to go long, but then if we start hesitating close to 240, I got to worry about double top, some action around a round number, all that stuff. So I'm kind of protecting my profits a little bit. I'll trail it out, but for the time being, Amgen is doing just fine, and the other one is Edit. I don't even know where I found this name, to be honest with you. I must have been off the scanner, but it was one of those plays where we have this round number off the daily support level. Here, let me pull that up. Here we go. So it looks like this area, the 16 even, is going to support well. I'm like, you know what? If we get down and we find support, I'll go for a long. Why not take a shot at 18 and see if we can get it back to 20? That's what I did. It's done like very little action since I got in. Obviously, I got in, and then it went to 1850 or whatever, and then came back down, and then here it is going sideways. So not a whole lot of action on Edit at the moment. For now, we got $1.67 on Amgen and 4 cents on Edit. Microphone issues. My volume is too low. Okay, I guess I got to get closer to the microphone. I don't know why these are supposed to be like high-end microphones too. I don't know why there's such an issue with the microphone. Hopefully that's better. I'm a little bit closer to the mic, so let me know if the audio is a little bit better as I'm. There we go. Okay, so apparently I got to be that close to the microphone. As we get on the futures, let me talk about the futures too, because we were talking about this 44.60 area on the futures as a potential level. Well, given what it did as it took out the level, it was 44.56 is the bottom. It kind of burns through my level. I have this idea, or I have this rule of if the level were to be not just move through, but if we move through by a few points, then I can no longer use the level as long as it trades down there multiple times. And it looks like we were down below 44.60 for a bit there. So it wasn't just like a snap back from there, right? So we got down there. We went down to, 44.56, came back up, tried it one more time, 58, and then we bounced. So that tells me that 44.60 is no longer valid, but I got to move it down. Problem with moving it down is there's too much support. There's too much support for me to move it down into 55. So I really have to just kind of delete the level, be like, okay, we'll just leave it be, find something new, and we'll work with whatever develops now. But now I'm kind of stuck here. I've got nothing. So I've lost the support level, but I've got resistance up top, but I don't have, I want to be long. I like to set up on the long side. I just can't find a level to work with. Sometimes you kind of have to do this, which you have to pass up the trade because the risk no longer makes sense. So in this case with futures, I'm kind of walking away, and it doesn't make any more sense for me to kind of just try for a trade here. I've lost the support level I had, so we're kind of done. We're done with the futures for the time being unless we get above 45.20, at which point I can find a new trade. For the time being, we'll leave it be. Let's see. Before I go on to my big regret, let me see what you guys are talking about. There's echo or feedback. Hey, Lucas, are you still around? No. Our tech guys are... Okay, we're going to have someone look into that. All right, let's see what else we got here. Before I continue on, and I want to talk about some other names here. What do we got here? I know, obviously, Sean was talking about DWAC and Facebook or Meta absolutely running to the upside. I can't seem to find what you guys are looking at just yet. So if you guys have some names that are setting up that I can potentially get into, I mean, 2 names is kind of low for me, so I'd like some names that I can work with that's set up on the daily. That's my big thing here. I need it to set up on the daily before I kind of take anything intraday based. So if it sets up on the daily, put it in the chat. I'll take a look. In the meantime, I'm going to show you guys my big regret for the day is NVIDIA. Oh boy, NVIDIA. This was... Yeah, so I'm going to zoom this in. You guys see that right there? That is 241.53 entry. Exit, 241.54 exit. What does it do? Like 2 minutes later, it's up at 44, like a $3 winner, and then it's still going. So I don't even know. It's one of those things where you do this and you're like, why did I even do that? Because it made no sense. Because I was looking at that long. Remember, we've been working NVIDIA at this 240 area for a week. Since the beginning of last week, we've been looking at this 240, right? This 240 is a big zone. Anything north of 240, but initially on the way up, we were kind of looking to fade this. But then once it took it out, like, okay, you know what? We can work with 240 on the upside. And then 240 long, I did it a few times with 235 on the stop. And then today was one of those like, okay, we're coming back to the zone. Do I have the setup? Obviously, I know the daily's there. Do I have the setup on the 5? And I was like, you know what? We kind of just went down, hesitated, moved up, went down, took out the 240 bottom, and then came right back up to 242. At that point, I was like, you know what? I can do this long. Let's put a bid down. And then I have no clue what happened. I can't even explain the logic behind my exit. I just know that I got out and 2 minutes later, it just took off like $3 and it's still going. I'm like, oh, well, now it makes sense. The risk is perfectly fine. The risk was like $6.50. I can get the risk back. So yeah, that's the one I see you add back Arun with the 1 penny scalp. I'm not a scalper, but in this situation, I definitely walked away with a single cent, and I can't even explain to you guys why I did that. Okay, let's talk. Oh, PayPal. I see the chat talking about PayPal. So PayPal was a setup that I was actually looking at earlier. I actually wanted to see. That's not it. I actually wanted to see what it would do south of. Let's get this up here. South of 120. Obviously, 120's got to be the big round number, right? We don't really have a whole lot of action on the daily because this is what the daily looks like. It's just gapping all over the place. So let me just go down to the 60, incorporate some overnight action. What do you get? Solid trend to the downside, right? You get a decent move below 122 overnight. Well, late session yesterday into overnight, and here we are kind of sitting between 120 even and 122. So I'm just waiting for 120 to go, and not just 120 to go, but I actually want to see how it trades below 120. Once I get that move below 120 that's able to stay down there, then I have the green light to go ahead and take the short. But I am looking at PayPal. You see, anytime you guys see this red line or even a green line with an arrow at the end of it, it's usually because I have an alert out, and I've got a bunch of alerts. So just to put it out there, I've got 31 alerts out waiting to get hit. And once something goes off, I'll know about it. So if one of those goes off, I'll be into a trade. If they don't, I'm here waiting, looking at my scanner going, okay, where's my trade? Where's my trade? Do I have Snap? Do I have PTON? PTON was a little messy for me, not my cup of tea when it comes to trading. I like the daily setups. I like the longer term levels. Obviously, that means you miss out some. 3250 would have been a nice entry, I guess, but it's like upside limited, you're limited upside and all that stuff. I kind of factor in risk and whatnot, so I kind of walked away from PTON with the amount of interest it had. So PTON was a no-go in today's situation because 3250, which is what the daily looked like, it puts you like right here, which isn't exactly helpful given that it showed that 33.50 to 34 was going to be a problem. Mookie, I see you putting in Rivian. I was looking at Rivian earlier too, and I think when you go down to the daily here, it was this level. I have an alert off at 65 because I wanted to work with this. So if we can get above 65, then I can actually use the I guess the levels between 60 and 65 as potential support. So that's what I'm waiting on Rivian. The alert is out there. It's just a matter of getting that trigger done. Okay, Amgen is still, moving its way to the upside, so we're going to leave that one alone. We're just going to put that off in the corner, let it go. AMD and all the tech names. Essentially, when that move in NVIDIA took off, it took off, all the tech names took off at the same time, right? You have AMD. I'm sure Sean was talking about Microsoft. You had Facebook taking off, or Meta taking off from the bottoms as well. Why did I type in Meta? So you had Meta taking off from the bottom as well. So you had a lot of big names take off right at the same time. It was right here. It was pretty much right across here. That's when they all took off, and some of them are still going. In Facebook's case, it's come off a little bit. Facebook, you'll notice that I actually have a red line across as well, because I'm waiting for the breakout of why is it not up there? Okay, I'm waiting for the breakout of 225.50, which is roughly just above the highs of the day, early highs from like 945. I want to see how we trade above there, because that is going to be critical. If we can, when you look at the chart, and our chart looks like that, if we can get above this area, that gets above today's high and yesterday's low, and if we can stay above the resistance that we've been showing this morning, then you have a really good chance that we actually extend a little bit higher. So that's what I want to see. Some action, some trading strength above 225.50, and then we can take a shot on Facebook. There's a lot of names I have alerts on. That's the thing. It's just a matter of waiting for them to go off. Obviously, we're looking at, Apple's one of the big names. You definitely look at Apple. It's up like just under 1%, 143, but Apple's stuck. Another big tech name, right? It's stuck. It needs to cross. You see this red line I've got drawn off? That's a resistance level, 178. Once you cross 178, I'll take a look. I can also potentially fade this north of 175. So I'm just kind of waiting for this to kind of settle in. Tesla, yeah, of course, everyone knows Tesla. Tesla's been kind of sitting there as well with this 1,000 to right here. It's sitting right in the middle of this range. When we talked about Tesla yesterday as well, get above 1,000 or get below 850, then we'll talk, right? When I say we'll talk, it's like then there's a trade there. But for me, I have a cutoff in terms of price points, and 1,000 is already a little too high for me, so it's a little too rich for my blood. But it's definitely something that's there. It's just ranging, like the market's been doing for the last little bit. Let's take a quick look at the futures. I want to show you guys what the market looks like in terms of movement, just absolute movement. You had consolidation here from the 24th roughly till the 31st. So you had a full week of consolidation. You got a breakout for like a day and a half, and then we drop down, and then we go right back into another consolidation. That's the market you're dealing with. So when are you going to be able to really make money? This consolidation was easier to trade because it was wide. It was a huge range, right? The bottom is like 42.20 and the top is like 44.20. So you have 200-point range that you can work with here. So you can take those intraday shots. This range, much tighter. You've got what? Now the bottom is leaking out a little bit. So you're going to say 44.60. Top end is 45.20-ish. Much tighter range, much more difficult to trade, especially on the intraday. If you're good at range trading, this is where you make your money. If you're good at trend trading, you need to kind of just sit back and wait it out. And obviously, you have names that are setting up that you can work with at some point for a breakout, Square being one. And I've been looking at Square for pretty much the time. I had an alert marked off for south of 100, and it got tripped when we put the stops down, right? Because we went all the way down to 99.50. When the stops went off, I put the alert. I'm like, I want to see how we react to this. If we snap back with strength, I would want to go for a long, because I see a lot of people getting trapped, because on the daily, Square's been looking at that 100 for a while now. We finally kind of broke through and right back. So now we're back above. The first time on the snapback, I was like, okay, let's get above 202, 202.50. We kind of failed a little bit, and then we kind of bounced back off that 100 again. So you'll notice that actually part of this, you can't see my, let me see if I can see. Oh, that's Brad's screen. Yeah, I think someone sent that to Prad there, a nice little drawing for him. So that's on his screen. This is my screen. And it's just one of those things where if we can get above 202.50, or 102.50, 102.50. We get above 102.50, then we have a chance at extending south of 100. We're probably going to break down, right? So I'm going to wait on that and see if we can't get some sort of a move. As I say that, Amgen taking off to the upside. So that's turning into a $3 winner on the remaining portion of our position, which we got into right here. So we're going to wait that one out. All right, let me go through the chat, because when I'm talking, I see the chat going off, but I don't really notice it. And Lava Girl, smash the like button. Absolutely, guys, hit the like button. We're at 398. Yesterday we hit 2K in likes on my first solo show. So why don't we set a target for 2.5? Is 2.5 doable? 2,500 likes. If you guys think 2.5 is doable, we got 3,600 people watching right now. So I think trying to capture at least 2/3 of that is doable. So if we can just get to 2,500 likes, that'll be nice. I think we'll kind of slowly progress up, and by the time we get Prad back, we'll get to 3K likes one more time just to finish off the show for the week. So 2,500 likes is what I'm aiming for today. We're 15 minutes in. We're getting there. We're definitely 1/5 of the way there, 20% of the way there. We're gonna work this all the way up. So you're definitely gonna see me talk about likes a little bit more, I think. And if you like what I'm saying, if you don't like what I'm saying, I mean, I asked for some improvements yesterday. So just put it in the chat. We'll talk about it and the names that you guys are looking at. Tell me what I think about Ford. Well, the thing with Ford is, yep, there you go, Randy. Ford. Yeah, you hear Randy in the background. He's talking about what, Randy? Ford. There you go. Randy says new battery supplier is coming. Randy, how do you feel about coming on and talking about that? Yeah. Not right now, though. Yeah. You're busy. Yeah, when you're ready, let me know. We're going to bring on Randy to talk about some Ford battery news that he believes he has. He's the automotive guy. He's also the tech guy. He does a lot of stuff. And then when he doesn't do stuff, he just sits back and watch other people do stuff. So that's his that's exactly what he does around here. All right, talking about Ford, I think one of the alerts just went off. Square. Okay, Square, north of 102.50. Here we go. I can work with this. So my logic on Square right now is this. Let me close that real quick. My logic here is this. Right? We had that 100 trap. 50 cent move right through 100, through the bottom. So we know people got squeezed, not squeezed, but the stops definitely went off south of 100. That makes me feel more comfortable about going long. If I were to go long for 100 or 102 right here, do I have an upside? I think I can get to 104 at the very least. That's $1.50 up. I'm probably gonna have to put up about $3. So if we break 102.50, I'm going to move the order down to 102, try to get a fill, risk $2.5. I'm okay to seeing what we've got north of 103.50 into 104. So for now, Square is definitely on the radar. I'm going to pull this up here so I can actually get the orders ready. Oh, it's a New York stock. Oh, wait, there we go. It's a New York stock. So I'm going to have this ready to go as soon as we can stabilize above 102.50. All right. Dun, dun, dun. What do we got? Square. Yeah. Frank, I just talked about Square. I just saw this too. Dun, dun, dun. What else we got here? Mr. Arun, can you please ask the boss to stay in this show permanently? Trust me, it's been asked. I'm the one on the other side saying no. So, yeah, we're going to go to Neil. There we go. There we go. So I was going to talk about Snapchat, but I got to talk about DWAC here. It gets to that, remember that 85 to 87 level that we're talking about all morning long? I'm kind of kicking myself over this because we had the 85. It just checked into the top end of the range, 86.78, and then puts in that capitulation. And that's when it really starts to go, that's the kind of flush that you see. It got to, like I said, it got to that 86.78. Started to turn. I did try to grab the short initially at 86.5, but did not want to chase to 86. I wasn't looking for $1 worth of risk. Maybe I should have been, but here's that pullback into VWAP, which can come in. Like, that's why we talked about these resistance levels. Now, if it takes out 87 a little bit later on in the session, this is where I'll come right back to the higher time frame. There's a pretty sizable gap into the upside. There was some pre-market action with a bit of a top here at 88.5, but that's pre-market. And when it broke out, you were well past 90. You were right in 95, 96. Where we were trading yesterday. So if it were to recover, there was a lot of room if it could have taken out that 87 range. But when you have these immediate rejections of price areas like we did here, you have 1 day above,
A single piece of bad news, which realistically wasn't actually a new piece of news. It was just reiterating something old, and then immediate rejection of that level like it never happened, and then establishing back the same levels of resistance as before. Then so when it comes back and tested on recovery, you just go back to the well. Like, look how many days 85 to 87 was giving you resistance. Once we get that rejection of 1 day's worth of trade, we're right back into that same range, and that's why you might get a failure. And it works both ways. You went long off the 80 bottom. You got to think about where you're taking some profit as well, because overall, what stands out the most to you on DWAC the last couple of days? This, capitulation candles, right? Like, it had one strong move. It's got 4 huge capitulation candles, and each time it's done so, it's been either, you know, at a fresh high or at some obvious resistance points that you can see on your 15-minute chart. So Barry's mentioning Snapchat, which I was going to mention, is back at the high of the day. 36.70 is a top. I just shorted it at 61 and a half. I'll give it to the high of the day, but that was good this morning. Going back to that well as the market screaming to the upside. Some relative weakness in a few names here, but DWAC, another fade off the top.
All right, back to me. A couple things I noticed. Frank saying that my mic is nowhere near as loud and clear. They're working on it. Randy's part of the crew. Randy, Mark, Rob, all putting in work, putting up a brand new station for Valeriia and Prad. So the mics are all going to be changed. They're all going to be brand new. They're all different. They're going to be the same mics that Sean and Neil have, I believe. So it's going to be much different. The setup's going to be different, and yeah, I'm sure the audio quality at that point is going to be different as well. So just hold on a bit longer as everything gets set up and the cameras get all moved around. That's why you see someone who was asking, is Mark always on the ladder doing wiring, or is he just dancing up there? He's wiring. He's putting in work, and Randy's helping him today. So definitely work being done to get the quality, not just the audio, but also, if you guys don't see the, I guess sometimes it gets a little blurry, the screens. They're working on cameras, all that stuff, right? So brand new computers also getting set up. So brand new setup coming at some point. It's being worked on. It's just a matter of how long it takes to get all the parts in and put together. So we're getting that done. And I'm going to take a look at Steven. I see you with Xpeng and Neo and Lee. Let me just quickly. So very first thing I'm going to do is you put up 3 names, right? So three EV names. First thing I'm going to do is, which one do I want to see? Daily. I look at the daily. Where's the chart? Which chart makes more sense for me? Now, they should roughly all look the same, but obviously there's going to be like that one. That, like in this case, Lee Auto looks pretty solid, and I'll get over. Yeah, so we're going to go back to Lee Auto. The reason I'm going to go to Lee is because if I look at the daily, this is a much simpler read. I'm always going to take trades where it's the path of least resistance, right? So where's the setup where I don't have to deal with a lot? And in this case, the setup is this right here. If you notice what this market has been doing, or Lee Auto has been doing around 26 to 25, there was going back to 2021, March of 2021 and April, you had some support or resistance around that 26 area, and then you had a bounce on the July 27th, a little action in late September into October, and then we kind of broke through, snapped back above, in the last week or so. So this tells me this zone, this area, where's my highlighter? Right here. This area right here is going to be an interesting area. It's going to have a ton of volume. So if I want to go for a long, this is what I want. This is the kind of action that I want to see at a certain price point or in a certain price range to be confident about the idea of the long. Now I got to figure out, where do I go long? And if we get above right here, I would say, which is fairly soon, 29, does that not clear the resistance? And I'm just going through my logic of looking at the chart. You can agree with me, and I would love to see why this would be wrong. If you feel that this is not the right read, I would love to hear it, because I actually want to see the other side of this read as well, as the way you guys see it. Is if we get above 29, does that not confirm the support level and the volume that you see south of 27 into 25? So for me, going north of 29 opens the door for a nice little support base, at least towards 32, 33, right? So you have to figure out the risk as well. So we got to get above 29 Do I take the long at 29 when my stop is going to be south of 25? No, because my limited upside, right, into 33, 34. So I'd want to get above 29 and then put a bid down lower so I can capture it on the way back down. So I do this sometimes because I don't want to pay up for it. So the risk doesn't make sense, so I wait on that one, right? So this is my read on Li Auto, and out of the three you mentioned, I feel like this is the better of the daily charts because it's got more stability, it's got more action, it's got more zones that I can work with, and I'm always going to take the path of least resistance for these trades. I don't need to overwork myself. There's going to be something else that sets up in the right way that fits the parameters that I want, so why not go for it, right? What's your take on the heavy manipulation on AMC? I'm a trader, so I just trade based on the intraday action, but when it comes to manipulation of AMC, it's a matter of everybody was on the wrong side initially, meaning a lot of shorts got caught. Obviously, you saw that run, right? So that's an easy read to make because of the way it moved. After that, though, it becomes much more muddy because then you're going to start seeing people build up positions through options. You're going to start with the conversation with synthetic shares. Synthetic positions have been around, like big topic of conversation back in during the housing crisis, 08, 09, because the whole mess was based on synthetic packages of I guess what were they called, mortgages, right? It was a whole synthetic thing that kind of fell apart. And that they've been around. The rules are obviously getting a little bit more restrictive, trying to get rid of that. But the game's always been there, and it's always tough to play against when you can create a basket without buying up the shares to create the basket, right? Like when you talk about it, futures contracts are a basket of 100 names. In this case, the NASDAQ 100 is a basket of 100 different names put into, a little basket, and then they're each given a weight, and then that's the futures contract, right? But you do have portfolios that base it entirely on the index because the index has a value. When it comes to individual names, though, the game is like, I don't know enough about it. Everybody can talk about what they know, and this is being done, and that's being done, and this is how you find out. I don't know enough about that type of game at all. I know how to trade. I know the features. I know how they're constructed. I know the rules of the game that I'm playing. But when it comes outside of the bounds of what I know, I'm not going to pretend like I don't know. I just don't know. I know synthetic shares and synthetic positions are a thing. I just don't know the way they're constructed. I don't know how you get past certain parameters of not having to disclose and all that stuff. So I'm just going to be straight up and honest. I don't know enough to talk as if I did. So I'll be straight up and honest with you guys. I'm pretty honest with you guys when it comes to my positions, what I'm up and what I'm down, or what I've made, what positions I've made on and not on. Futures coming down a little bit. Amgen taking off just north of 340. So is AMD's, not AMD, NVIDIA still going. So that's not helping. All right, what else are we looking at? PTON just consolidating. I mean, PTON's Trader Prad in the chat. Everybody, Trader Prad is in the chat, and we're at 800 likes. So hey, you know what? Prad is keeping check. He's keeping check of you guys, making sure that we can get to 2,500 likes on the day. We've got how many people? We've got 3,600 people. We're looking for 2,500 likes. I think it's doable. Why not, right? So MVIS, I'm still going through different questions here. What do we got? Yeah, I'm dropping market and trader knowledge. I'm just giving you guys what my experience is and whatever I can based on the questions that are being asked, right? So can I check Ford? Oh, yeah, we were talking about Ford, and then I got caught off track with Randy. All right, so this is a Ford. We talked about this a few days ago, too. This is the issue with Ford. Multi-month consolidation around 19, breakout, come back in, found some support, breaks down, and then here we are. What I'm looking forward to is if we were to get above 1850, you're running right back into that resistance. So this is one of those areas where you're like, you know what? If we get into that, we should find some resistance, find some way to go short against this 21. And I think that's the read on Ford. It's broken a multi-month trading range with a breakout that failed. that's a problem. I think technically you're going to have an issue with Ford as we go up. And I just noticed that Randy has sat down. For everyone who's ready for auto talk, and this is the perfect timing for that Ford question, because we got the guy who knows about all of this stuff. When it comes to cars, I'm just going to take my car to the dealership, let them figure it out, because I don't know enough. I'm not that guy. But Randy, on the other hand, he works on his cars. Randy, we got you. What have you got to say about the automotive sector right now?
Ford. The announcement a couple weeks ago was, I believe, that they were launching
I think you need to get closer to these mics, though. There you go.
battery suppliers the second quarter of this year. So by then, they're going to ramp up battery supplies for the Lightning F-150. No sound? No. Uh-oh. Hang on.
Lucas is coming. We're taking care of it. All right.
Check, check. Is that better? Okay, where was I? Ford, F-150 Lightning,
No sound
battery
still.
suppliers. Still no sound?
Yeah. Lucas, what you doing? Can you guys hear me at least? Oh, okay, now it's good. All right,
Can everybody hear me?
there you go.
Ford F-150 Lightning, second quarter of this year, battery suppliers lined up because it's sold out. The model is sold out 100,000 units per year, pre-sold for 2 years. They're going to ramp up a second production plant, and I believe in Lansing, Michigan, to take on the additional orders. They need more battery suppliers. That's coming in Q2 of this year. Again, don't trade the news. Wait for the announcement to come out. It's going to be a big one. They need to keep up with their orders, and right now they're not. So the Mach 1E selling like hotcakes. The F-150 Lightning, the biggest selling Ford product on the market, has been for 30 years, I think. Going to be their big money maker, but they need the battery suppliers. LG Chem's lined up. There's others coming on board. They need the suppliers now. Is that keeping Ford stock depressed? You can tell me. There's going to be lots of volume come Q2 when they make this announcement. Again, don't necessarily trade the news, but watch for the release. This is going to be a big one for Ford. It's really going to drive up their equity and drive up their stock value.
So you're talking about the truck and the Mach-E. So you got the roughly what is like almost like a hatch, not a hatchback.
It's a
but it's a
crossover SUV. Yeah. It's kind of like your
It's not
Venza.
an SUV. It's kind of low to the ground though.
It's a crossover.
Okay,
It's a
So
crossover.
it's a CUV, right? That's what they call
There
it,
you
right?
go.
There
CUV.
you go. CUV. So you got the two. So you're looking at those two as the big, essentially the future products of.
The future products right now, don't forget, they also have a deal with Volkswagen. So the Volkswagen skateboard chassis, which will be the European models, much smaller than the Mach-E. No F-150 Lightnings in Europe, obviously, but there's going to be a van, a small commercial delivery van, I think, from Volkswagen. There'll be battery supplies for that. So Ford's on the move in, again, not just in North America with the Lightning, but also in Europe with their smaller models. There's going to be a small SUV, a small CUV, as well as several small car platforms that they're working on. Again, these are mostly based in Europe, but it's going to drive their global price and their global, their value up a lot.
So I take it that they're trying to hit a different segment than Tesla is, because Tesla's established itself as more of a luxury.
Right. They have to.
EV, right?
They have to get into the 30,000 euro space. There's a whole bunch of Renault is already there, Peugeot is already there, Volkswagen's already there themselves. Small, budget-friendly cars, 30,000 euros, 50, 60 kilowatt packs. These are within just about everybody's budget. They're selling like hotcakes in Norway and in Sweden. Most of the new car sales are now PHEVs or completely hybrids. So if you can get into that market and get a $30,000 vehicle on the market that appeals and everybody else can afford it in Europe, big winner for Ford.
But here's
big
my
winner.
question to you, though. Especially, I've always had this question with now the luxury space. Great, everyone who owns a luxury EV, they can take it home, plug it in, right?
Yep.
If people aren't in that space and they need an affordable car, but EV is the new way of going about it. If you live in an apartment, is the technology going to be able to keep up with the need for being able to charge it on demand?
Good question. Great question. I mean, if you're an apartment dweller, if you live in a condo, it kind of depends on your condo board. I know they're putting a charger in this building this year. So if you park underground, there will be a designated spot for the tenants or for perhaps sometimes even the public where you can plug in your vehicle for the time it takes to charge it and then move it to your own personal space. Otherwise, if you're in an area or in a facility, a building where there is no charging capabilities, you're kind of stuck to public charging networks. but they're very, very eponymous in both North America and Europe. They're installing new chargers everywhere. They're in plazas, they're in shopping malls, they're in hotels. So even on city streets, there'll be designated parking spots, so you can take your whatever car you bought and just charge it on the street, go for a coffee, come back, you're done, and go home if you don't have charging at home. But the infrastructure is coming. It's just going to be a while.
Well, will you be part of this? I guess you've got a couple fancy cars. Will you be part of this? By the time this rolls out, will you be an F-150 Lightning guy? Will you be something in that space?
I don't have a use for a pickup. I would probably get into either a plug-in hybrid or a pure electric play, depending on what's available at the time.
Okay.
I've got a 5-seat SUV. Gets great fuel economy. It's currently a diesel, but it is what it is. I live in a small town. There's not much charging capabilities where I live. However, I can charge at home. So, you know, you have your electrician install your charger on your wall or in your garage or in your driveway, and you can plug in and carry on. If you're a commuter where you're leaving the city, you want to go skiing, for example, or you want to go, you know, into a rural area, kind of got to watch where you go. Again, most motels, hotels, resorts have the charging capabilities, but there's maps out there. Tesla has their own charging network. There's lots of other private charging networks where you pull into a normal gas station, and there is indeed charging facilities at a lot of these stations. So there's your normal fuel pumps, and then there's, you know, a charging area adjacent to that, and you can charge up.
Well, aren't you guys glad the mic level is down right now with
wow.
the fire alarm going down? Guys, everyone's saying I'm in control of the mic. I mean, I'm supposed to be, but I mean, yesterday was the first day I kind of got a handle on everything. And then there's a switchboard over there on Prad's desk, which controls like mic levels and all that. Randy, since you know about this, can you actually turn up my mic level apparently, because it's not high enough? And I'm trying to get this. People are telling me to put this at 75 degrees. I can't. This thing is got too many wires attached that's bringing it down. So here I am kind of leaving it be at this point. So we're kind of still working on trying to get my mic levels up. But for the time being, we're going to get back to stocks. Thank you so much, Randy, for the automotive segment. People really did appreciate that. Apple taking off, apparently. That's the last thing I saw. I saw people talking about GME. Or was it GME? No, AMC people were talking about. I'll get to that in a second. Let me just see what Apple's doing on the day. We looked at this recently. It is now north of 174, not a whole lot. I'm still looking at Square, by the way. It did not hold out 102.50, so we are not going to...
Ask Lucas. I have no idea.
All right. We're not going to do a whole lot with Apple. It's stuck in that range. And then Square did not hold that 102.50, so we're going to leave that alone. We're still waiting for 102.50 stabilize a little bit before we get involved for the time being. So we're just going to write out Amgen, $4.38 of the money, still moving to the upside. Let me get, there we go. Let me get this. There we go. Amgen's still moving to the upside. We're going to leave that be. And Apple's not doing a whole lot, so there's nothing there. NVIDIA still going, 248.83, missed opportunity there. What else we got here? You guys talking about Snap? Let's take a quick look at Snap. We were just looking at Snap, right? All right. What is Snap doing down here? By the way, I took a quick look at the likes. We're at 961. Remember, the target is 2.5K, 2,500 likes, and we're getting there. We're not halfway, but we are getting closer and closer. We've got 3,500 people watching. I think it's doable. I think beating yesterday's 2K is my goal for today. So 2,500 is my target. We'll get back to Snap. As you can see, I've got that red line here with an arrow. That means I'm looking for an alert south of 34, which would be right here. We could, of course, look for a long, but the setup on the long is tricky at the very least, because this was a trade from a couple days ago, right? When we kind of took off from 25 all the way up to 39. And then we're like, okay, we're going to do something around 34, looking for a long setup, but we're not getting clean long setups with enough space to move towards 40. So if you guys know, or if you guys remember, the way I trade is if I'm going to find a setup, I need to have what I call space, or I need distance for this trade to move. So if we get distance for this trade to move, then I'll take the trade. But if I'm going to go for a long, say around 37, and I have to put 34 as my stop, and we're running to resistance at 39, I'm not sure I got the best of the setup here. So I'm looking for a better level. So if we can't get above 37, see if we can't come back down, and then we'll figure it out. For now, for the time being, we're looking at, Snap. It'll be there. There's alerts off there. So we're gonna kind of set it aside. Futures now have cracked 4,500. Thanks, futures. It would have been so much easier to trade the futures and so much better and cleaner if we had just not taken that 60 area out, especially like this. Because we were sitting around 70. It looked like we were going to have some stability. I'm like, you know what? All we have to do is just find a reason to go long. I would have loved a reason to go long. And then they did this and blew up that 60 level. And I can't even move it south of 60 because of what levels are below that. So here we are waiting. If we're going to do this, if the market wants to rally, hey, let's go another 20 points so I can actually get into an area where I can actually find a trade on the futures, which would be the 45.25 area with a potential fade against 45.65 in the event that we get the setup. If we don't get the setup, then we're not doing anything. But since we're going that direction, we might as well go all the way, right? 45.25, let's go futures. NASDAQ up 0.9%, S&P 0.63%. We got space to the upside, hopefully, another 20 points or so. That would be nice. Carry my Amgen trade, carry my edit, which is not doing anything at this point. And then, NVIDIA has been missed, so hey, whatever. What do we got here? A firm moving up again. What's Prad doing? He's making Maggie noodles while I watch Arun. Prad definitely living in the Indian household there. Maggie noodles definitely a big deal out in the eastern part of the world there. For anyone who doesn't know, it's just like Mr. Noodles, like those those like dehydrated noodle packs with flavors. So definitely a big deal out there. Microsoft, is Microsoft past 305? What do we got? Okay, we're working 305 on Microsoft there. But the problem I have with Microsoft is this. It'll be great on the intraday if you've got great prices, especially close to 300. Great. If you go now, though, you're going to be running into resistance right around, 306, 307, even if I pull up the 60. All right. 306, 307. Yeah, it's going to be a problem. Like going for the long now, there's a lot to get through. So path of least resistance, I'm going to see this over and over again. Path of least resistance for the market is not to the upside. Well, for the Microsoft is not to the upside. There's a lot to deal with. Doesn't mean it's not going to go. There's times when the market just grinds through levels, right? Those trades are always going to be around. But for me to enter, I need to have already priced it in properly. So it's just one of those things where it may be too late. The trade may have already passed for Microsoft long if you wanted the long. There's still, you see this red line I have, right? 315. That'll be the break point. That'll open up a brand new trade. All right. What do we got here? Oh, someone's been asking about the lol noodling while he watches your room. I mean, it is what it is. Prad's going to be Prad. I can't stop him. All right. Oh, there was a question about advice if you're going to open up. It doesn't stay like that. That's the problem. Randy's messing with my mic. It doesn't stay. I tried that, Randy. All right. Okay, hopefully this works now. Now this is right up in my face, but it's okay. At least hopefully you guys can hear me better. Advice, I hear you, TradeX Freedom. Wondering if you're opening up a brand new office, what can you potentially look forward to? Any advice? Well, there's a few managers in the office, not in the office, in the chat right now. So what I would suggest, well, for any manager, I know Bradley, you're an office manager, you have your own floor. I remember someone else posting as well. If you guys have that advice that you can give to him, just please post it in the chat. I would suggest though, is that risk. Be prepared for training. You need to your job as a manager is to train your traders, right? It's easy to want to trade yourself. At the beginning, though, focus on managing your traders and getting them situated, getting their, whether it's their learning profiles, getting them educated on the markets. Not everyone's going to know the rules. They need to know the rules. So you need to have a comprehensive training plan in place. Greg has one. He spends a decent amount of time with his trainees, all the new guys coming in, going through all the different rules, not just the rules, but also potential setups, what you can look forward to. Give them a base template to work with, let them expand on it, but at the same time, check up on them often. Check up on them often, meaning what did you do wrong? What did you do wrong today? What did you do wrong on this trade? How can we work on it? Explain explain your setup to me is something that I think would be helpful. Is get them to write down a strategy and then give it to you so you know it, and then you can keep them accountable for their trades. And that's a big thing, because it's easy to kind of just send them out, be like, oh, you guys take your trades, figure it out, and then we make money. But as an office, if you're trying to build up your trader base and you're trying to get these traders profitable, you need to put in a lot of time in educational aspect of it. Obviously, a show like this one and the guys trading helps them kind of look at, oh, this is the stock I want to trade. This is the name that we should be looking at. Let them expand, but at the same time, give them something to start with, right? You need to give them a basic template of, breakout strategies or something, and then let them figure it out as they go. But definitely keep them accountable, and I think writing down the strategy itself, their strategy, allows you to keep them in check when they don't follow what they said they're going to do, right? That's a big deal. As an office manager, you want to control your risk, so definitely do that. GME taking off, is it? Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm late to the party on GME, up 10% and running in the last little bit. What is going on here? All right. Okay. 103 up to 112. All right. First thing I'm going to do is, yes, it's running on the intraday. I'm not a momentum chaser, so I'm not going to do that. But what am I going to do on the daily? And people are not going to like this when I call this out. Okay. 120 is going to be a resistance level. So I'm looking at, what is this? High of 122.30. Okay, so call it 123 then, because I'm going to have to break this down from a daily into a much more 124. Yeah. So the reason I choose 124, so as you guys can see, I'm breaking down exactly what I'm looking at on the chart, right? First thing I did was pull up the daily. Where's roughly the resistance area that I want to deal with, right? What's the area that's going to be a problem? Then I immediately broke it down to the 60 so I can see the levels a little bit more clear. It looks like between 120 and 124, there's some resistance. We kind of bounced off a couple times, and then once we broke underneath, we resisted a couple times, and then we got close on the 26th. So something's going on around 120. Now at least I know that. Now we're running. Okay, so if I was long, I know that there's going to be resistance up here north of 116 going all the way up into 124. There's going to be a problem. I can't do anything about finding a trade now, but can I fade this? Could there be a setup on the fade? And there could be a potential setup in the event that we actually find the short. It actually slows down and then rotates over, and at that point you can take a short, use 124. But respect the strength. Mark has been finding support below 100, and for the time being, it's making a run up. So we're going to wait on this. We're going to let this go. I'm going to set off an alert. I'm going to say if it gets above 117, then we're going to be alerted to the stock being above the or into the resistance area, and then I can actually work the potential fade. But for the time being, we're leaving it be. GME on a run. Momentum-wise, I'm not strong on momentum plays, so I'm just going to leave it be, right? That's kind of my whole thing. Quick check on likes. What are we at? We're at 1K likes. We're not even an hour into the show. I think we can average 1K an hour. We've got 3,400 people watching. Great. Can we get this to 2,500 likes? That will be the goal of the day. Call the fire brigade. Well, I don't know if you guys heard the guy on the mic when they started. They said, this is a test and you'll be hearing it throughout the day. Do not worry. So unfortunately, we're stuck with this for the entire day, and it's driving some people nuts, which is understandable. I am not close by to an actual alarm, so I'm okay, but I can only imagine if you're sitting right underneath one, it is not a comfortable thing for your ear. We talked about the ES again. We kind of mentioned this off the top here. We're going to leave it go, let it go. Well, it's too late. It's kind of for the long setup that we needed. It didn't happen at the right location. It took off. We're going to have to let it go for another 20 points before we get into a zone where we can find a setup. Every time the bell rings, a trader gets margin called. Very, very true, I'm sure. With the run-ups that you're seeing, especially in stocks like GME, I'm sure any shorts are getting like, oh boy, this is not looking good. So definitely someone's getting called out there. All right, what else are we looking at here? Microsoft all out of steam, is it really? Okay, we were just looking at Microsoft slowing down. We had that resistance level that I could potentially No, it's too far away though. 315 is too far away from that 304. So here we are waiting for this. All right, AMC smaller spread. AMC is running 2. Okay, quick take a look at that. AMC, yeah, same type of move. Do we have, let's take a quick look at the daily there. Yeah, I think the issue with the AMC is that even though it's got a smaller spread, the levels are just so far away. 21 was the high that I want to work with, and we're trading at 15, and I can't really work with it until we get to 18, so we're just going to leave it be. And it looks like multiple traders are getting margin called at this point, so we're going to leave it alone. PTON, still running. Guys, put it in the chat. If there's trades, I know this is what feels like a quiet market for me. It does really feel like a quiet market. It's just creeping up. But then you have random names that are going absolutely nuts, right? And this is the issue with dealing with like slower markets is you're forcing yourself to trade or trying to get involved in some names that you got to pick and choose your battles. And then you got to go after the momentum players because those are moving. And then you have names like the solid ones that you've been waiting for days that don't want to do anything. So at this point, Amgen and Edit are my 2 plays. PTON, if you caught it early, that would have been a stellar play. PTON, if you missed the boat, you're kind of waiting there, and you're waiting for the boat to come back. But if it's gone, right? That's the issue with PTON, and PTON's got a lot of eyes on it, and this was quite the move on PTON off the bottom there. Wow. Oh, man. Right from what, 26 at 6:45? Okay, that's not realistic. So let's say 8 o'clock. It was around 29, and then here's at 38. Oh, PTON on quite the run. So I hope somebody caught this. I'm sure you guys love to catch these on the dip here. After yesterday's run, I think a dip here in the pre-market could have been caught. I mean, I wasn't looking at PTON. I also showed up late, so there's no way I would have caught it anyways. I wouldn't have looked at it until it was at least north of 30, and then I couldn't have figured out the risk on this trade. So here we are, PTON running up strong, and I'm just still waiting to figure out what else to do. SOPA was one of those, sold my PTON calls around 33. Ugh. Sorry? Unfortunately, when a stock like this gets trending, it just takes off, right? And we saw that with Bill on, what was it, Friday? When I had Bill, it just got in and just took off and never stopped. It was like a $35 winner. It's ridiculous. That doesn't happen often, by the way. That's not realistic at all. You just get caught. Sometimes you just get you get in and it just runs, and then you just sit back and you're like, oh, it's still going. Okay, great. So that's why you need to have a management in place, meaning like a trade management system in place. It's easy to get into trades. As difficult as it is, it's easier to get into trades versus managing them. Because managing them, you need to have an idea of how do you take profit, how do you manage your exits, what's your exit strategy if you're in the money, and what's your exit strategy if you're out of the money, right? The exit strategy out of the money should be pretty straightforward and simple. Hey, I'm getting in here. If it gets past this price, I'm getting out. I'm walking away, taking my money, using it for something else at some other point. When it's in the money, it's more up in the air, right? You're like, okay, well, how much do I take? Do I want to take half of it out? Do I want to trail it? So what I like to do is I like to put targets. So I'll use the daily. A lot of the times I use my setups based on the daily. Like, let's actually use an example of what I have right now is Amgen. Amgen, I'm long Amgen at 238, right? And the very first thing I'm going to do when I take this type of trade is look at the daily. If I look at the daily and I see no resistance, I'm looking to see where the market hesitated last on Amgen. And for me, initially, my first target was going to be around this right here, around this 244 into 245. That's my first target. But at the same time, in parallel to having a target, I'm also putting in my management, or like my trade management approach as well, my trade management strategy. So that kind of was just me kind of covering myself on two bases. In the event that it keeps going up, I'm targeting something so I can actually get out. In the event that it doesn't get there, I'm also locking in profits as it's moving. So we're trying to get to a target, but we're locking in profits as it's moving. And that's what you saw in my Amgen trade here when I decided to cash out some here around 238. That was just, it's stalling. I didn't like how it was looking. So I'm like, you know what? That's okay. I'm going to take some out. I can walk away with some money. That's what you need to do. You can't hold on forever and expect that it's just going to continue on. Just because you're up does not mean it's going to keep going, right? So you do need to have 3 parts of a trading system. There's 3 parts to a trading system. There's your entry criteria, or the way you find your entries. Why do you get into a trade? Your management criteria and that has 2 parts. So your management criteria of how do you manage your winning trades and how do you manage your losing trades, right? Like I mentioned, winning trades have a target, have in parallel with management of that trade itself. How are you moving your trail stops up? And then obviously the losing part is your exit points, right? So your automatic exit, if it goes below a certain price, I'm done. And that happened to me today, actually. One of the trades that I actually took that was horrendous was Coin. I took Coinbase today, and oh boy, you're gonna look at this chart and you're gonna be like, really? Yeah, Coinbase. Not the best of trades today for me on Coinbase. So on top of missing NVIDIA, this is what I did on Coinbase, by the way. Went long, 202, exit right down at the bottom right here, right near the lows of the day here, south of 198. And what does Coinbase do? Take off towards 206. So clearly I'm off my read, but at the same time, I'm okay with this. I'm okay with the setup. I'm okay with the exit. That's part of the game. That's part of the system. If your strategy makes money 60% of the time, 40% of the time you're going to lose, that means you got to be okay with it when it happens, because it's going to happen. You're not going to win forever, nor are you going to win every single time in a row. So be okay with the idea. Yeah, be okay with the idea that losses come, and they're going to have to come, and you got to learn to handle them. And we're going to go off to Neil.
It's going to make sure our mic is on. But SLQT select quote, which didn't quite make the watch list today, but got shellacked on earnings. We actually talked about this right at the end of the show as it was making a bit of a bounce. It got to 250, but it just came into these pre-market highs around 350 here. Post-market, there was a low at about 350. I'm chuckling because, of course, as I come on, there's that fire alarm again. I waited for it to go parabolic and actually test the real level. So it's up $1 from the bottoms, but keep in mind, this got cut in half even at these prices. It was up at $7 in the aftermarket, or at highs from yesterday. So I'm giving this about to 350 even. Didn't want to chase this. Like if you didn't catch that curl at the open, once you haven't got the trade, it's like a breakout. Like once you don't have a breakout, what are you supposed to do? Like either you try to catch a bottom at that point, don't make a trade, or wait for an actionable level. And that was if it got back to 350. So I got 41s to the short side. And it's a similar thing. Actually, Arun, you mentioned GameStop. And I know you talk about resistance at 120. Sometimes when something goes parabolic and has a history of fading, for a scalp trade, now keep in mind, different styles of trading, right? Like if you're looking for a structured short, you wait for that big supported resistance, that big key price area. If you're looking for a scalp trade, sometimes you look for the last rejection point. And on GameStop, you did have this rollover, and this was back on on the second, I think. You had this rollover right here at about 113 where it just completely died. So when you get this break into the new range, go back to the week before. This is where the consolidation and just absolute liquidity vacuum was. So when you get a parabolic move, that's a bit of a vacuum to the upside. So you get a vacuum to the upside, and then some filling in starts to happen where there was a tiny bit of price acceptance, a nice range where it was able to hold near the top, and then you get a pullback. But that's a scalp trade, right? Like that's not, ooh, you're short GameStop, you can hold on to this for the rest of the day. Maybe you're lucky and you got the high, maybe. But more than likely not, it's going to continue the trend, and you want to make sure you're taking your profit, which is another thing I just mentioned in SLQT, select quote. Whoops, of course select quotes on the New York. I was just telling Tony about how I still can't get over the fact if it's 4 digits, a muscle memory just tells me to type in Q. I just looked at it on the New York. That just did a bit of a curl. I want to make sure I'm getting some profit because it is still in an upward trend. So it's all well and good to catch a turn, but just don't always assume I've got the absolute top, I've got the absolute bottom. Know your style of trade. And if your reversal trade is a scalp off of a key level where the risk to reward makes sense, it still means taking profit and not hoping that this turns into a dollar winner. Sure, it just went $1 to the upside. That doesn't mean it has to come back, but you can also still profit from the trade. You know your out first is at 50. You know the entry point. I know where I want to be flat. If it gets to 3, I want to be flat. This is the last cluster I'd be taking profit out, 3 to 315, where you had the last big consolidation. So Couple of trades there. Select Quote and GameStop, both on the move today.
All right. And we're back. I was looking at the chat. I was like, where do we get out? Somebody was asking, PTON, where do you get out when it goes like this? Okay, let's just, for sake of trade management, let's just say we have a long here, somewhere around 30, right? It's in the money deep now. How do you manage this? We'll go through it. I'll just go through the chart as it's moving, and we'll keep it right there. All right, so as it's moving, first thing I'm looking for is where did it try to go down? It's an uptrend, obviously. So where did it try to go down, and at what point did it fail, and then go back up? So initially, what I'm looking at is these down moves. That's what I care about. The first down move I'm noticing is right here, a little sideways action / down move into 32.50. So if we were running up, I would move my trail stop to about here. I don't like 50. I don't like those halves. So I'll round it down to 32 even. Goes up one more time and then comes back a little bit. Okay, great. And then takes off for another leg. You could argue that the stop should be here. My issue with moving stops like this is that when these like little hesitation points are too close together, I'm always going to choose the further of the two, right? Because 35, let's just say you get out at 35 and then it catches support at 34.50. And then it continues, because that's going to happen at some point when these levels are that close together. It's not like they're separate; they're almost like one big wide range. So I don't want to move them up too fast. So in this case, unfortunately, if you're sitting in a long, and if I was sitting in a long and sitting at 38.50, my trail stop is at 32.50, $6 below the market, and this is why it's good to have a target, right? So at least with a target, you're like, oh, you know what? I'm going to capture some crazy out of the money target that has some resistance, some level that has some resistance on the daily that I can work with. So what would be the target on the daily? If you catch the long on PTON, what would be the target on the daily? It would have to be around this 40 to 41 area. There's clearly a lot of hesitation here. And, looks like somebody was mentioning my alerts are going off. Apparently, my alerts are nonstop at this point, so we're still going strong. I wish that was the case because, man, none of these alerts are going off because what do I got here? We've got 32 alerts lined up and none of them have gone off. Oh, wait, that's a lie. One has gone off. DD has gone off. Oh, there we go. Finally, a trade during the midday show. DD is actually breaking out here north of 80. Very, very hesitant. Nice little strong run up in the pre-market, not pre-market, but like right off the open. And now we're getting up 80. And the reason I want to really play with this 80 is because what we're doing here. Multiple days we've been stalling out in front of 80. 79.50 has been the last high point. Now we're getting above 80. Great. That means we can get above this last high. And if we can find stability above 80, then you go for a long, or I'm going to go for a long anyways. And I'm going to use the bottom here. Where was the last hesitation point? Like right back to my management idea. Where was my last hesitation point? It was south around 78.50. I don't like using halves, so we're going to say 78 even. And then we're going to put a $2 risk on the 80 long if we can get stability on DD above 80. And that's critical at this point. So what I'm going to do is, what is it, 80.10. I'm going to rearm this alert. We're going to move the high to 80.10 so that when it does go back up for a second time, that I'm going to be there to take it. So for now, we're going to put DD on just a side alert. I'll mark it off here in the corner. And then if we can get going to the upside and stay above, that's a trade to be made here. All right, what do we got here? Peloton founder, CEO steps down. That's where are you managing alerts? Oh, somebody was asking earlier, what is the software that I'm using? Okay, so there's different software, multiple softwares on this computer that I've got. I've got P08, which is our internal software built in-house. I'm sure a lot of you guys have questions about what this is. This right here, paired with some of these charts that show us our trades. This is P08, Day Trade the World software, programmed, only available in-house, not sold outside, not used outside. So anyone who has a Day Trade the World office has access to the software, actually has to use the software. And we just released our latest version, which took effect this week? 7th? Yeah, took effect yesterday. As of the 7th, we're going to be only able to use the latest version of our internal software. So P-Pro 8, that's our internal software. The alerts and the scanners that I've got, that's what you guys see here. That's eSignal. So eSignal is a charting software available for anyone. You just got to figure out where you're going to get market data from. They provide you access to it, but obviously there's a charge associated with that as well, right? But eSignal is what these charts are. These are the ones where I have alerts, I have scanners. Pretty powerful software, I want to say. I've had it for I've had it forever. I've had it since 2000 essentially I started in 2006. I've had it since 2007. So I've had it for a very, very long time. So it's got something like this. This is what the actual not the platform, but this is what the center console looks like. And if you want tools, I can actually do, there's a bunch of stuff in here like market depth, quotes, detailed quotes if I wanted actual info. And I think my account also has news access and all that stuff. If you want to figure out options chain, which we don't trade options at Day Trade the World, by the way. So it's just a function of the software, but I don't have it. And then Forex and all that other stuff. And if you do bonds, you have forward and yield curves. Anyways, very powerful software, but part of that is also my alert system, which is what I use it for. So on top of the scanners, I have alerts. And there's something here called the alert manager. So all my alerts are here. I can set them to expire, but I just leave them open because they're based on daily levels. So if we were to break out through a daily level, then I want the alert to go off. I'll be notified usually through a pop-up that says, hey, you know what, this is going off. Let's take a quick look at it. So pretty powerful software, available for anyone. You just got to go on their website, esignal.com, and it's owned by ICE now, actually. ICE, Intercontinental Exchange, owns eSignal now. So there you go, for anyone wondering about that. Okay, so what I'm looking at is I'm scrolling down. I'm like, okay, what are our like situation at? It's at 1.2K. I think we can do, again, we're halfway. We're getting halfway there. We're an hour into the show. We're at 1.2K likes. I think we can do 2,500. Let's see if we can get to 2,500, hopefully in the next 2 hours or so. So before the time this show is done. And that's the thing, too. I think today, for me doing likes 2K yesterday and then 2,500 today, I think we can set the bar for when Prad comes back to go for another 3K run before my time is up by the end of the week. So I think 3K when Prad comes back, doable. Prad, get on those Maggie noodles, get yourself back on, and then we'll go for 3K likes when you get back tomorrow, hopefully. So for the time being, 2,500 is the target, and you're running solo with me. This show is brought to you by the alarm bell. So fire alarm bell. There you go. So for the time, for anyone wondering, that's what's going on. They're testing the fire alarm system. All right, short PTON. I don't know about shorting PTON. I'm going to respect the strength. Respect the strength. If the market wants to go up, if the stock wants to go up, respect the strength. There's no point in stepping in front of it if there's no major levels. And I'm not seeing 40 could be a level, but again, I don't have a clear area that I want to work with on PTON, so I'd rather go for the long than the short. If it wants to come back down, I know Joanna was saying 34. I see the area, right? It's kind of goes into the same area that I was looking at. If I was running a trail, I'd be using this 32 even area. So if I was going for a long, south of 35 that sets up would make sense, right? South of 35, put up $3, see if we can't go towards the high. That would be the read that I would want to go for. So for the time being, we're not going to go short. Respect the strength. And it also depends on what you want to do. Do you want to scalp the short? Do you want to just get in, do a quick 20, 30 cent move and be happy with that? If you're okay with that, then yeah, you see PTON coming off, right? It's coming off that 39. If you're okay with that, then that's the way to go. For me, I kind of position in and then let it work itself out. So I would rather just wait for a proper trade that fits what I do versus trying to go for those quick scalps. That's not my game. I'm not strong at it. I'd rather just set it up and go for the trade. So this move down, I appreciate this move down because it allows me to set up a trade that I really want to go for, which would be the long. It's late to the party, but if we get that set up south of 35, there could be a nice little trade there. Yeah, oh, Sean's got something to say there. Let's go to Sean.
All right, so Arun, his strong point is not scalping. Well, insert your boy. The sound again. Okay, so we did that. So just to review, we went long $30 on Peloton. We were very, very patient. We wait until that 39 level here on Peloton, and then we shorted. So right now we are short Peloton, 75 cents, 80 cents in the money. Actually, we're short 87s here. So again, out first level 31, out again 33.60 right there on some consolidation. Obviously, we missed that whole ride upside there, and we're just getting excited because we're watching this thing go to the downside now. And then here it is right now. There's the short off of 39. I thought I was bidding, maybe I was not, bidding down here to get some out. So 38 flat. I'm gonna wait for 37.50. Actually, that's the fill right there, 20s. Now we're gonna wait for some 37.50s on the downside. So look, I'm pretty excited about this trade. Let's see if we can retrace back to the 50 period. Like, look, I know they got a new CEO. They reported losses worse than expected, but I guess not the end of the world. Peloton today up 28% seems crazy. I've been talking about buying this name for a long time. We are long this name due to buyout rumors, but there it goes, man. Right to the downside. That's crazy, 28%. Just big time squeezes to the upside there. Now let's see if it fades back in. So my first, I mean, we're already out of 20, 40, so we still have 60% down as we test 38, but my target here, 37.50. But it looks like we're having a little bit of a problem here, Arun, at 38 flat. So maybe we'll put another bid here and then take the 80 cents and worry about this 37.50 if it does come through. But so far, so good today on Peloton. In early, Arun, at 8:45, and then out there, our last trade at 10:30, and then just now engaged in a new one. Short Peloton, 38.87. Let's just keep the music playing here, guys.
All right, back to me. Everyone, that's the thing with the market, right? Like, I'm waiting for a potential drop to go for the long. In the meantime, Sean's making money on the short side. And you can approach the market in so many different ways, whether it's actually going for the short and trying to scalp the short, or you waiting for a long and going for the position trade. I guess there's so many different, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, there's no one way to make money in this market. Whatever your approach is, as long as it's consistent, as long as you're okay with the approach and you're able to size up, and that's critical, right? You need to be able to increase your size and be confident increasing your size with whatever approach you have. That way, that's the way you're going to progress and make more money in this market. So consistency is the key. Execution is the key to consistency. So I'm always going to say write your strategy down. If you can write it down, that means you can verbalize it, which means that you have a pretty good understanding. You can have a pretty good understanding of what the market looks like. So we'll come back to this. We're going to go to Sean. He's got another read, I believe, on PTON.
Yeah, so just an update here. We're back in as Peloton starting to bounce around, but we're into Facebook again. So we left Facebook to dry for a little bit. It's come back down. You're seeing the market pulling back in. So we are going to go into scalp mode here a little bit. Again, we just took 40 cents off that. 30 cents off that long. Now we're going to hold it out, and if it breaks 220, we're gone. Just making sure that we do have that offer in. Yes, we do. So here we go again. Long right now, Facebook at 55. We'll see if that one works. We're only giving this 55 cents to the downside there. You might want to look at this too, Arun, because Facebook is at that 220 again. I know it might pan out for your longer look on things. And then I do have a bid out here. I'm at 10s. Give it to me, baby. Let's go. Give me those 10s. We got them. So there it is there. Out Peloton. Some 10s off of an 87 short. So now we'll hold that 40%, see if we're right on the downside. And then again, yes, let's go Facebook. We took some shares here. So we'll get out at 90 if we can. Oh, it just went to 221. Darn it. We'll get out a little bit higher than this and then rest on the rest of it and see if we get back to the upside. But we should have just, that's my bad. We shouldn't have gone over to Peloton there, idiot. But we should have just got out there. As here it comes, crashing back down, 220s the out here, Arun.
Yep. All right. I see people questioning the bell. Okay, so the situation with the bell, I'm going to say this again. This is the fire alarm test that the building is doing. So we have no control over how it reacts or when it comes on, when it goes off. I'm sure they're checking each and every door and alarm and making sure that it all works. So it's going to be throughout the day, unfortunately. So I'm sorry. We're going to apologize for that ahead of time. But hopefully the value of the information here that we're presenting is worth it to kind of stick through it. If not, just please hit the like at the very least. We're at 1.3K. We're more than halfway through that 2,500 like target. And yeah, I know I'm working against the bell as well. So it's almost like you've got a trend but then you're hitting resistance, and this bell is the resistance level that I need to get that's preventing this this light count from getting higher. And as I say, this bell got upset and went off 2 times. All right, we're going to go off Pfizer. This is the question that was asked a couple times. Various people talking about Pfizer. Nice little bounce off that 50 break right to the upside. Let's take a quick look at the daily and why that would make sense. Look at that. Look at what's sitting around 51.50 right through here. So it makes sense why they would break through and snap back, right? Because 50 big round number, stops go off, and then you get a snapback buy inside of support going back to 2021, August of 2021. Nice little resistance level around 50. It broke a few times, but that's the general area that you want to work with. And then as we got close to that same area, we kind of hesitated a little bit and then finally took off, right? So on the way back down, it makes sense as to why we're doing what we're doing right here and hesitating around this 50 and getting that snapback. So a cheap long here against the 49s was available, I believe, on Pfizer. I would argue north of 50.5 could have established the long there. So definitely something to look at. Keep an eye on Pfizer, because if we continue at this pace, even with the gap, we need to get above 53 to get going. At the very least, to confirm that, you know what, this is just a snapback buy. I would say that we need to get above 55 to get going, but at the very least, we need to get above 53 to kind of confirm the buy strength here. Of course, there's going to be resistance up top, but for the time being, we are going to look for potential longs. Maybe not today. Maybe the window's closed for today, but at least this setup is aware. We're aware of this. That also means we need to take a look at BNTX as well, another name that's part of this game. And what is it doing? It's down, but it's not doing a whole lot. In terms of the daily chart, I don't have a whole lot to work with. Let's kind of go through the board. What else? What other names can we look at? NVAX, take a quick look at NVAX, down 13% on the day. And here we are kind of working that 70. Okay, that could work actually. Let me pull up the 60-minute chart and see what we can work with here south of 80. Can we work with 80? I'd rather work with 78 actually, because I noticed that on the 28th, if we break below, we kind of hesitated here. We kind of went down, snapped back up. So I'm going to put an alert off on BNTX south of 78. I want to know when it gets below there, because then I can actually potentially work a short. It's down 13%, but it's around an area that I don't want to play with just yet. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And then the last one, Moderna, my least favorite of all the names, just because I'm very bad at trading it. The way it moves is just not, I guess it just doesn't mesh with the way I trade. I am net negative on Moderna every trade. I want to say I'm like 2 for 10 on Moderna in terms of win-losses. So I'm 2 wins, 8 losses for every 10 trades that I take. So definitely not a good trade, good stock for me to trade. So we're going to leave that alone. Amgen still trucking along here. Nice little trend. We got a nice little trend going on Amgen. So that's $6 in the money, and we're just going to ride this out, right? That's all we can do. When it decides to go, ride it out. Move stops along the way. We've already taken out some as a precaution around that 238, locking in $2, but now we're $6 in the money, and we're going to let this one ride out. And edit is just going sideways, so that's not happening. What else we got here? All right, let's go. We're at 1.3K likes. What are we sitting on? 3,100 people. It's kind of low, but I get it. It's the bell is not helping the situation. They're testing the bell just in case Prad dyed his hair and will go furious and said, well, to be fair, the only person that's going to be furious is his mom. Prad's kind of, he gave up. He just gave, like, he was resisting it so hard until it was inevitable that 3K was happening. And then you should just see in the man's face. He just like, fine, whatever. So he gave up. He's wrapped his head around the idea that his hair is going platinum for Platinum Prad. So that's definitely happening. So his mom, on the other hand, Prad, you can always let us know. I know you're in the chat watching and eating your noodles, so let us know how that goes. Yeah, you guys can definitely get another 1.2K. Well, assuming that everyone hasn't hit it already, right? We're at 3,200. I'm looking for 1.2K in likes, 1.2K more likes out of the 3,200. I think that's doable. And Prad is a good sport. You hear that, Prad? I'm sure you're watching. You're definitely a good sport. Can you remind me what those two books were? Oh, so for the last few days, I've been recommending books for anyone. I imagine a lot of our viewers are newer or just starting out in the market. So when you're doing that, you want to have as much education as possible, right? So I'm sure a lot of people are just reading everything they can get their hands on. Problem is that there's a lot of books that just don't really help. Like, there's just a lot of nonsense in a lot of books. It's just so I feel like there's a couple books that I remember over the years that have really stood out. And one of them is Steve Nissen's book. Steve Nissen's Japanese Candlestick Charting Techniques. One of like the old, like we're talking like, I want to say it's north of 20 years old. It is one of the big time books when it comes to explaining what candles mean. And they do go into more than just explaining candles, but also like, oh, this is a marching bear pattern or dark cloud or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like I personally don't care for the name, but you need to know why it's happening. What does that mean for volume, right? What does it mean when this is like a shooting star or whatever? It just means volume's dried up. We got to an extreme point and volume's dried up. So keep in mind, read the book, but don't get too caught up in the exact terms. Just be aware what you're looking for is what the candle is trying to tell you in terms of volume, right? And then you're just trying to put that together and create a strategy based on that. So don't get too caught up on the actual technical terms because it really doesn't matter. You just want to know about what it means. And then the other one, that is for the technical aspect of looking at charts. The other one is Mark Douglas's Trading in the Zone, which is just trader psychology. So those are the only two books I will ever recommend because those are the only two books that I still remember after this long of reading books and whatnot. So they clearly mean they have enough knowledge or enough information in them to give you a good foundation of what you're looking at the very least. Because it's easy to look at a chart and be like, oh, well, it's easy to look at a chart and go, oh, there's a lot happening on this stock. Let me just do something. Well, but you got to break it down, right? You have multiple time frames. This is the 1 minute chart, by the way. I just kind of did this to show you guys. If you break it down, you can always find a trade. If the 5's not working, you break it down into even smaller charts. The problem is you got to resist the urge to kind of go to a smaller chart. As long as it's part of the plan, start with a bigger chart, then move to a smaller chart to fit your entry or time your entries, right? But don't break your strategy down so you can just find a trade. Let a trade happen based on your strategy. So that's my whole thing. And if I don't have a trade, I'll just wait it out. I'm not going to force anything. I don't need to force anything. So we're just going to wait and see if the market's going to cooperate. I'm sure there's something out there that's going to cooperate. So we just got to find it. Trading in the Zone is one. And then Japanese Candlestick Charting Techniques by Steve Nissen is the other one. Right. I guess you could call it a trader's reference book. It is a pretty solid book. Square, moving. All right, I was looking at Square earlier. Well, it's moving, but I don't know if I want to trade this movement because it's kind of wedged in here. So my whole thing is we got to get above 102.50. We tried earlier, and that's the area that I was looking at. Get above, stay above, show some support, then we go for the long. Or let's finally lose this 100 level. If we get below this 100, then we can go for the short. But anything in between, I'm not getting involved. Like, that's why I like the idea of putting out alerts. Set the conditions that you want to trade, move on. When the conditions go off, come back to it. You don't need to stare at this thing. Let's just say you missed the PTON trade, right? If PTON was, you're looking at this, and I'm sure it's on a lot of people's biggest movers of the day at 28%. Everyone's probably looking at PTON going, oh, I got to find a way to trade this. Not really. Just set the idea of, oh, I want to trade around this level. Let it come back to this level. When it does, I'll take a look at it again, right? In my case, I won't even look at this chart until the alert goes off, but I actually don't even have an alert on this, so I should add alert. South of 35. There, alert's in. So now, when it gets below 35, it's in an area that I want to trade. I'll come back to PTON when we get to that point. But until then, I won't get involved. What else do we have here? DCFC, nuts. 45% to the upside. Okay. Nice little pop here, north of 10. I think Neil was on this one earlier. I think he was working the halts or something like that. What is the volume on DCFC? 11 million. Oh, that's a decent amount of volume too. Oh, okay. So Neil was looking for shorts, and we didn't have located. We weren't able to find the shares to go short. So no play on a DCFC. And if anybody's new to this show, let me just put it out there. I do not pay for shorts. It's kind of become this whole thing of like, oh, let's get Arun to pay for shorts. I think someone was saying this earlier. Oh, if you get to XK likes, or like 3K likes or something, Arun's going to pay for shorts. No. You can put 50,000 likes. I'm not paying for shorts. The reason being, though, and this is more so because this is my strategy, is that for me, when I pay for shorts, and someone made a very good argument for why paying for shorts, you should do it if it costs you $100, but it's gonna make you thousands. Why not pay for the short? My issue is that's when it works out. For me, if I pay for shorts, that means there's an upfront cost. I'm already committed to the trade, right? Let's just say it's 1 cent per share. That means I'm already committed to paying 1 cent per share. I haven't made the trade yet. So now, if I've bought a decent amount of shares, or I wanted to short a decent amount of shares, I've already paid up front for getting access to those shares. And now I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, I gotta at least make at the very least, let me make that back. And now I'm kind of over trading the stock. It's all great when it works out. It's when it doesn't work out, that when that first trade that you're taking doesn't work out, now you're sitting on a loss and you're sitting on a cost associated with taking or having the ability to take that trade in the first place. And now it's just like, okay, I want to keep trading this so I can at the very least get my cost back, right? And I'd rather not go through that whole process. So I know that for me, the better approach is not to just pay for them. If I got to pay for them, odds are they're probably got a low float and you're looking for like some outside shot where it's gone too far and you're trying to fade it back. I try to stay away from those trades. So if I've missed the boat already, I'll just kind of stay away. It's not that big of a deal. And that's just me keeping myself in check. And I think as traders who aren't at an office, in our case, we're at an office, you have a risk manager who's going to keep you in check if you're out of line. But at the same time, as traders at home, even as traders in an office, you got to keep yourself in check. It's your job to cut yourself off when you're going too far down the wrong road or you're making decisions that aren't helpful for your account. Yeah. All right. If it costs me small fraction, but that's the thing though. For me, if ES is my like bread and butter, and I'm looking at trades all day on ES, if I see a trade coming on the ES, I'll know ahead of time and I'll take that trade. Okay, so it's different. It's not paying for the shorts. It's just it has to be something you plan to trade regardless. Yeah, for me, futures is my game. So yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's something that I'm planning to trade ahead of time. That if I'm looking at the futures and there's a trade coming that I want to be on the short side of, if I had to pay for shorts on the futures, yeah, I would. But that's part of my game. Stocks and these outside names, not part of my game because all of a sudden I'm trying to capture something that I'm not used to doing, right? So that I guess Neil kind of clarified a little bit more. Actually clarified for me as well that it is something, as long as it's part of the plan, then I'll do it. If it's not part of the plan, I won't get involved, right? The Arun Show. It is the Arun Show. For an hour and a half, we've got 1.4K likes. We are slowly moving up. We're creeping up towards that 2.5. 2.5 with 3,100 people watching, doable, but I think we got to set some realistic expectations as well. So why don't we say 2.5 as the target, but I would like it to be north of 2K. So we'll just say that AMC is AMC squeezing. We had a whole conversation about terms. It's moving up very quickly, and it is moving from 1540 to 16 even. But temper your expectations. That 50-cent move is a decent move, but if you're saying squeezing, that's very colorful language, and I think you're going to need a much larger move to call it that. But it definitely is moving up fast. The issue with AMC is also moving into resistance. So you have space, but you got actually a decent amount of space. You got another $2 or so, but you are moving into resistance. Would I go for the long north of 16? The issue I have with the long north of 16 is that when we move this fast, where's my support level? Where can I say this market hesitated? That's where my stop should be. So if I go north of 16, where should I put my stop? I feel like the stop's got to be somewhere south of 15, maybe even 1450 somewhere. And then once you look at the daily, it's like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense because the risk is then too high. right? For a trade at 16, for me to go south of 14.50, and then based on the daily, I got to go south of 14. I'm putting up $2 in risk, and I know I'm going to run into resistance fairly soon. It kind of rules out the trade, right? So that's like my checklist there. Oh, the trade is moving. Okay, great. Do I have the upside for this trade? If I take the trade, how much do I have to how much do I need to risk? Oh, I got to risk $2. Can I get $2 back? Maybe not. So I won't take the trade. So in this case, it's moving up. It's getting to an area where you could argue for a long, but at the same time, the risk on the trade is fairly high in terms of risk profile. So we're going to walk away, leave it alone, and see if we can't find something later on. DD was another trade, right? We were setting up DD north of 18. Look at that. Alert never went off the second time. We were looking for the long north of 80. We needed stability. It fell off and got to 80.10, fell off to 79.60 or so, and now bouncing back towards 80.10 again. I've got the alert. If it goes up, we'll definitely get involved on the long, but for now, we're going to leave DD alone and see if we can't get that alert. We're just going to leave the system to let us know when the trade is ready. SoFi is going. Okay, let's see what SoFi is doing. SoFi at 2.5%. Yeah, it's moving to the upside. What do we have on the upside resistance levels for SoFi? All right, downtrend. So initially when you pull up the daily, very first thing you look at is, oh, look at that angle. That's down. So that means there's a downtrend there. Where does that trend break? And I think you can see that big red line. I had that drawn already. So for me, we can move up, but there's going to be resistance all the way up, at least until we clear 14. So once we clear 14, that's when I'm going to start looking for some trades on SoFi. So we'll leave it alone. It's going to bounce around. You don't want to get caught up too. The issue is that if you start making trades inside of ranges, it's easy for the stock to turn around. And once the stock turns around, there's no chance of you able to capture the risk you put up to take the trade. You'd rather just have clear space or runway for that trade to run a move. So I'd rather just kind of sit back and let it go, like I'm doing with Amgen, right? Amgen's a $6 winner. I just kind of took my trade and let it go. I managed it along the way, and like at this point, I'm not worried. I'll just trail it up. I'd rather have more trades like this than worry about, oh, I need to cash out here soon because I'm taking this trade and there's only $1 of space upside, but I'm putting $2, so I got to be more on top of it. I'd rather not do that. It's just personal preference, but at the same time, everyone's a different trader, and everyone's going to have their own way of approaching it. Everyone's going to learn their own lessons. So all you can really do is just put that information out there. Hopefully it helps. And as I say that, Facebook, nice little bounce off that 220.50 area. Is Facebook setting up for a daily rally? Is Peloton going too? Oh boy, Peloton running. Oh, Peloton up 30%. Oh, 30% at 39. It really is stalling at 39 though. Huh. Okay, next little checkpoint on Peloton looks like. So we were looking at 32 even, and then on the way down, we were hoping it would get to 35. Looks like it did not. It went to 37.50, and now it's taking another leg up to 39. At this point, I think 40 is going to be magnetic, right? It's very hard to say that we can't get to 40 with this kind of action, this kind of like micro consolidation move to the upside, and then 40 sitting right there. I think 40's got to be magnetic at this point. So Peloton may be looking at 40 very, very soon. For anyone who's in Peloton and riding that train, good job. That was one of those hard reads. If you had it at the right time, great. If not, it was very difficult to get in, at least the way I'm looking at the chart. But now, once you're in, you're sitting pretty. You don't have to do a whole lot. You just manage it. Just manage your money the right way and give it the space to move around. So you know how I was talking about 32.50 being, or 32 even being the stop in the event we move down? I think now at this point you can actually move it to 37. The reason I say this is 37 was roughly where we kind of stalled out the first time. And then we tried to bounce off that 39 and we got to 38 even and then took off again. So if we get south of 37, I'm going to say 37, not as a hard stop, as a soft stop. So if we get below 37 and stall out, or like we kind of like trade underneath there, then the trade is done. Then the long trend I think would be over, at least the way it's moving anyways. If it doesn't, and you just got to move this, just keep moving this red line up somewhere, and then you just capture as much as possible on Peloton. That's all you can really do, right? When a trade goes, you just go with it, right? Natasha calling 40. Good job on the 40 call. That's a what is that? A 33% move. If we were trading at 30 and you call 40, that's quite the move on the day, but that's a great call. 40 would be the first target. And then actually, no, don't even put targets out, because think about it. Daily, we looked at the daily, and what's Peloton doing? It's clearing. It's just chugging through these zones. Like first look was here. First look was 32.50. Then we're cleared that 37.50. Now 40. If you get through 40, you're looking at what, 41. And once we clear 42.50, you're looking at 46. So there's like little checkpoints along the way, but it's the way it's trading. It looks like it wants to grind its way through them, and that's what I mean. Like when it comes to targets and levels, there's a way to get through them. It's just, it's not going to be done on a snap move. It's going to be done through grinding. And then grinding allows for enough shorts to get pushed out. People are always going to see these levels, go for short, they get pushed out, they keep going, and then the trend keeps going, right? And that's what you want. When you get a trend like this and it's kind of grinding through levels, that's exactly what you want. And I just noticed off on the side of my screen, DD is taking that 80-10 now. So I think we can finally work along on DD. Yeah, can we maintain stability? What does the DD even look like on the level 2? Oh, I'm surprised it's got a 3-cent spread. Okay. Let's see if we can't sneak in there and grab some shares on DD. What else are you guys talking about? AA? Yeah, AA was another one I think Brendan brought up earlier. Yeah, okay. Sean's got Facebook for you guys.
All right, guys, so today, I don't know if you can see these graphics or not, but we'll drop down the money on Facebook today because revenge is sweet, and today it's here for me. So, you know, we've defended this 20 a couple times. Once there, out, 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 and then out for flat, and then in again there at 220.40, out and 80, out for $1, out for $1.20, and now we're holding that last 20% here for Facebook. So Facebook has been a worker for us today for sure. And other than that, Peloton. So Peloton short here, just like Arun was just talking about there. That's why I yelled at him. I was like, oh my God, it's going ham here. We're short again right now. But look at this. Short there, 38.80, right? And then you talked about this, getting out 38s, getting out right there. Holding the last 20% to the take out right there. So loss on that last part, but again, made up for it with all of these. Then we did try a short at 39.50, got taken out at 39.60, 10 cents worth of a stop. And right now we're short again at 46. So let's wait to see what happens here. The high of the day, obviously going to test 50 probably, or sorry, 40 at one point. So we're getting ready to do that. We will short this again, but there it is. There we go. Now we're 20 cents in the money on the downside, but Peloton, definitely a slippery slope. And then Pfizer, short right now, again, off the high of the day. So let's wait to see. That's a short 75, out 67, out 65, out 66. And here, oh, here we go. Here we go. Another opportunity now. Arun, let's put our bid out and bang, there it is right there as Pfizer comes cracking down to the downside. Man, today's a good day, my friend. Thank you, Arun, for rocking it one more time here on TraderTV.Live.
All right. And here we go. Back to my screen. What are we looking at here? I was looking at Facebook. Sean was talking about Facebook, and we were looking at Facebook as well. So Facebook around that 220, right? At this point, you got to look at that 220. Like, what are you going to do? Just same reasoning that I had around that 230 that scares me. Like, it's a round number. Everyone's looking at it. But we broke through the overnight. 219 was the low. 219.50 was the low, I think. I hesitate to go for the long just because everyone's looking at this as a potential exit point. But at the same time, if the setup is there, and I've got the 15-minute chart, you'll see me flip through different time frames. I'm not too caught up on the time frame, but I do want to see the action. And if we can find some stability, I think at this point, you've got to look at Facebook potential longs. As long as we can not lose this 221.50 again, as long as we get that stability, I think you can definitely go for it. I think it may be worth a shot because at the risk level, it's going to cost you about, what, $2 upside? You've got at least $2 to the upside as you go towards that 223.50, right? So be smart about it, but that's definitely one of those things you want to keep an eye on. Couple things. Square has broken out of that 102.50 area that we were looking at, that 102.50 consolidation. Now I'm looking at that, but trying to capture it, but it is moving fast though. So I've got some bids out, see if I can get a fill on a move back down. I'm not chasing it into 103. That's not happening. 102.50, somewhere around 102.50 makes sense for me. Anything higher than that is just too far, too fast. I might even just pay into the 60s, but I'm okay with that, giving up down through 100 on Square. And we talked about the other one, DD as well. DD taking off at 80.26 now. So that's above the highs as well. So we're definitely going to be getting into some positions as they come back down. We just need this market to kind of slow down a little bit. Market, we haven't done a futures update in a while. Let's take a quick look at the futures here. And they are moving. They're chugging along. Same way PTON's going. Futures chugging along. 45.13 now. Once we enter into, I probably should use a bigger chart. Once we enter into this zone right here, then I may have an idea. Doesn't mean I'm going to go short. It just means that we're in an area where it would make sense for the risk to take a short if it were to set up, right? So once we enter 45.25 and on up, if we can get a setup, then we go for the short. As I mentioned off the top there, or when I started the show, the fact that we blew up this 44.60 kind of removed any possibility of a long setup because the level's gone now. But the short could still be in play, but we just got to get the right level. We got to get the right setup, and we got to get it inside of this 45.25. So for the time being, I've got a couple bids out. I'm trying to get GD, and I'm also trying to get Square. And then futures, we're waiting for this to go another 10, 15 points before we can actually potentially fade this if it were to fade. So a couple options there. $6 in the money on Amgen, out 23 cents on Edit. And we're waiting for futures and a couple other fills on some names there that are still moving strong. So for the time being, Facebook is also another option as well. That's something that's still on the table for a potential trade. Am I committed to that is the question. I'm going through the different charts, and I'm thinking, man, do I really want to be in this trade at this point? Peloton 40, maybe. Peloton going towards 40. I mean, that's magnetic, right? Peloton at 40 is at this point almost, I don't want to say a given, but there you go. Peloton, I'll have the level 2 up for you guys. Peloton getting closer. Is there any volume at 40? Oh, I can't see that far. Oh, I don't have the scroll bar up. So we'll leave it alone, and I'll keep this level 2 up for you guys in the event that you guys want to see what the volume looks like on Peloton as it gets closer to that 40 marker. But for the time being, we're just keeping an eye on Facebook here. Potential setup. Maybe. Because with the market rallying, Facebook not wanting to move away from this low too far, relative weakness, right? So we got to keep that in mind as well, because NASDAQ is up 1.3%. Futures, S&P futures up 0.92%. A lot of stocks are trending, and then Facebook is just messing around with the lows. So not a whole lot going on there. VLDRW, I think that's a warrant. So VLDR is probably the stock. So yeah, VLDR up 15%. Velodyne. Oh, Neil was trading this Velodyne earlier, I believe. So it went to the warrant price and turned? Okay. 418 is a warrant price. And bounced right off of that 418. What is that, 417? And then here it is at 434. So I don't really have a whole lot to say on Velodyne, but Neil's been trading it all day. And at some point, I'm sure he'll come on and we'll talk more about it and explain more about that. Facebook, though, okay. This is what I was worried about. If we can stabilize again one more time around this 221.50, as long as this gets bought, whatever this is right now, this drop of 50 cents on Facebook from 221.50 to 221 even, if this gets bought up one more time, I think you can justify a long. So for now, we'll just leave it alone and see if we can't get some stability here to find a long. I also just got filled on DD, by the way. So DD on the way down, we caught the long here, north of 80. Stop on DD, I believe, is right here. It's going to be 78 and change. So let me change up the charts for you guys right here. DD. Oh, that's FF. DD. And let's put the 15 down just to see the general area. PTON. Did PTON actually cross 40? PTON crossed 40 by about 35 cents and then flash back down. So, hey, this is what you worry about at round numbers. Stops going off. Problem with round numbers is there's a lot of stops sitting right behind them. So when they get crossed, and they're usually market orders, they go. And then you get this flash up, and then they come right back, and that's a problem. So 40 has been crossed on PTON, but the trend is still strong. PTON may just back off for a little bit and then go again. But the trend is there on PTON, and I think you just got to leave that aside for now. I'm going to move this down. As you can see, these are my positions, by the way. Amgen, 570 in the money. DD, 4 cents in the money. Edit, down 22 cents. And I'm still waiting for one more fill on Square. And then I'm looking to figure out what I'm going to do with Facebook or Meta. Man, Meta's losing it. Okay. Maybe we're going to be looking. You can see these red lines, right? I've got the alert actually for if we were to take out the over or the pre-market low of 219.50, I'm going to look at the idea of potential shorts as long as it's not just a flash in the pan, meaning like stops just go off and then we come right back. So for the time being, looking for longs, open to the idea of shorts, waiting for setups. That's kind of the game with Facebook, and you got to be quick with it too, right? So here we are. All right, what are we looking at? Tesla at 925. That's what you guys are talking about. When would I take a futures long? Oh man, it's gonna be tough. At this point, in terms of futures, especially for me, the windows are small. If you capture them at the right time, then the trade is on. But if the window has closed for the trade, I'm not going to force it anymore. So the window for the trade was down here. Based on conditions that happened down here, the setup wasn't available. So now, I mean, I'm not going to go for a long going into resistance into 45.20 and 40 and whatnot. I do have levels up here. So let's see if I can find the other side of the trade, which is let's find this market, wait for this market to slow down a little bit, see some action that gives you the reasoning that, hey, you know, to justify the idea that, oh, there might be a short here. Their setups or the setup is in an area that's already resistance. Why not go for the short? So I'm waiting for that. At this point, I'm not going to chase a long. Long's gone. The idea of a long is gone. If we were to cross to the upside, and if we were to cross all of this resistance levels, this is not the chart. This chart has it. If I were to cross all of that resistance levels, or all those resistance levels, and we got above this zone right here, north of 45.65, then I'll consider looking for new longs. But for the time being, the long had to be down here, or shorts had to be up here. Anything apart from that, I'm not getting involved with. And if, as most of you guys know that have watched me trade for the last week and a half or whatnot, 7 days, I'm not going to force any trades, nor am I going to chase any trades. If the trades are there, I'll take them. If they're not there, if I miss them, they're gone. I'm okay waiting. It's a game of patience for me, and I don't need to get involved every single day. I just got to be very accurate when I do get involved, right? So I go for just absolute accuracy when I do trade, because what I notice for myself is that when I do that, I allow myself, I develop the confidence to take more shares, more contracts, bigger positions. So I'm okay if I only got to take maybe 2 or 3 trades a week, as long as they're highly accurate, and then I can take a ton of size on them, and then that's it. I'm cool with that. That's for me. That's the approach that I like, because it's it sets everything up, and it also allows me to develop an idea of what I'm doing and how far I can actually take it. So in terms of strategy building and whatnot. So that's kind of my approach. So we're just kind of waiting. And Amgen coming off a little bit. So Amgen now backing down from this 242 level. But hey, that's part of the game, right? When Amgen started trending, we knew what we were going to do. We're going to trend. We're going to manage this trend. At what point do we get out? I'm going to say it's going to be here around 239. There's going to be some slippage, but 239 is probably going to have to be the cutoff point, because 240 is a round number. Not a fan of putting stops around round numbers, especially like 240. 250, every 10 points, it becomes too obvious for me. And so I'll slip it down another $1 and see if we actually are able to maintain strength, back off a little bit and then pick up some strength and then take off. If we do get that, then great. If we don't and we break 239, I can be happy walking away from Amgen with a nice $3 winner. Oh, is it even $3? Yeah, it's a $3 winner, because I got 236 on the long. So it'll be a nice little $3 winner. We picked up Square, by the way. So we have 4 positions here. We've got Square long 102.61, and we've got DD long 80.11 and Edit at 80.11. If you'll notice that sometimes I have a tendency, especially in the prices, and every trader is different. I'm sure you guys definitely all have these ticks in your trading. A lot of my entries will be roughly like 1 or 2 or 3 cents, depending on the day and depending on the price of the stock. It'll sit a few pennies away from a round level, a round number, meaning from 10 or 20 cents or whatever. So you'll notice that DD, Edit, and Square are all like 1 cent past the round number. It's just the tick that I have, and I do it on the futures too. It's like if I was playing poker and someone was watching me trade and I played poker the way I trade, it's too obvious. It's gonna happen every single time because it's just there, and everyone has a tick. Like, you don't just throw out an order. You always throw out an order at a limit price that for some reason it's always going to be around the same on multiple stocks, right? It's going to be, I'm going to sit 11 cents away from the even number, or I'm going to set 3 cents away from the even number, and everyone has that tick. It's just one of those things. And coin took a dive. Yeah, everyone has a tick when it comes to trading, and I think that's what kind of psychology comes into play, right? If you know what other people's ticks are, and if you can group a bunch of them together, then you can mess with it, right? And that's kind of why stops go off and all that stuff happens. Coin coming off this 204. Yeah, coin's stuck in a range. The issue with coin is I thought we really had a chance. And when I got stopped out on coin, I look back at the daily. I'm like, do I really want to participate on coin after this mess? And I was like, I thought we really had a chance to get going to the upside after crossing this 200 and kind of going underneath in the pre-market and then coming back above. I was like, we really have a chance to go towards that 210. Now that it's just messing around, I don't know if I want to participate in this 210, like around this 200. If anything, I'd want to participate much lower, around this 190 or so. If we were to move it down towards 190, you'll notice that a lot of the stability or the resistance levels that coin had earlier was around 197. So now we're kind of messing around back and forth. So what I want to see is, what are you going to do if you break it? Like, in the event that we get below today's low of 196.75, if you break that, are you going to find support? If you do, there could be a long still in place. If you don't, then obviously the trade's gone, right? So it's just one of those things where I'm just I've kind of moved on from coin. We're going to leave that be. And what's going on with GME? That's a good question. What is going on with GME? Still going. There you go. We were talking about GME earlier. It's like, if it keeps going, I want to be notified if it gets to 117. And I'm going to look on the daily, because there was your resistance level on the daily that I want to work with. We're here now. If we stall out anywhere north of 117, you might want to, I'm going to start looking for potential fades, respect the trend, but at the same time, you're in a zone, so all you need is a half decent sell setup, and you look at the short potential, right? But I mean, it's pretty obvious what the trend is at this point, right? So you do have to wait for this trend to get broken on the sell side. But for the time being, respect the strength, be aware of where it's running into. And that's it, right? Amgen up 539, Edit 30 cents down, DD down 3 cents, Square down 12 cents. So we're just waiting. What else are you guys trading? Coin breaking 211 today. That's a big call. I hope, if you're in, I hope that's the case. I've kind of moved away from coin because of the action. But if it breaks 211, let's just set up the next set of trades on coin. If it were to break 211, or if it were to break 210, you're running into resistance immediately, right? So my target initially on that 200 long was around that 210 because of the gap. Look at this gap. We've got, this is going back to May of 2019, and then you got a couple bounces, and then we finally gapped underneath, and here we are trying to get back into that gap. If we break above 211, you're going to run into some resistance. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So there might be another little trade here once we cross 210 on the short side. Let's just wait for it, though. We just want that setup to come through, and then once it does come through, we'll get involved. Chipotle for earnings. Oh man, Chipotle. I'm not a fan of Chipotle because of the ridiculous price of the stock. That's the only reason. I try to stay away from these names, especially at $1,500, $1,600. And it's so not choppy, but the volume is so all over the place. It's a New York name? Okay. I mean, the spread is $3. It's done 174,000, and it is just absolutely inconsistent with a range of north of $60. So for me, in terms of Chipotle, and when it comes to earnings as a whole, doesn't matter. For me, I don't care what the earnings do. And what I want to do is, where can I potentially make trades? And we did the same thing with Amazon. Last time we kind of talked about it, is draw the levels out. Just because it's great earnings doesn't mean the stock's going to go up. It's easy to see great earnings and all of a sudden the stock is going down for some reason and you can't explain it. You're like, this doesn't make any sense. They should be going up. There's always something else there, right? And the market will find the reasoning to do it. So in Chipotle's case, immediately I get essentially I get glued to the 1650 area. Look at that. A lot of action around 1650 going back to mid-December. So immediately I'm looking at 1650 on the support side. You can't argue. There's no way you cannot say that 1300 is going to be a problem, right? So there's your edges on Chipotle. Everything in between 1650 and 1300, whatever. If it gets into 1580, look for fades. If it gets into 1350, look for longs. And then everything in between, it doesn't really matter. If they take out the levels, then there's a brand new set of trades. Obviously, I'm not going to trade Chipotle, but this is kind of the way I would approach any earnings play, is kind of set the edges, set the wide edges that they could potentially work with. And then once the earnings comes out, then you can make your move. Obviously, for guys playing options and whatnot. And I think a lot of the times, people get caught up in the option game without knowing the rules of options or how options work out. Just because the stock goes up doesn't necessarily mean your options are going to go in the money, right? You got to factor in volatility, risk, and all that other stuff. And I have zero strength in options. So I'm just saying be very, very aware that it's more than just price movement when it comes to options. So not my strength, but just a caution there. Know the rules of the game you're playing. Always know the rules of the game you're playing. If you're trading futures, know when they expire. If you're trading commodity futures, know how it's settled and when they expire, because some commodities, they roll over monthly, not just quarterly like the S&P does. So all that stuff matters. So when it comes to stocks, it's a little bit easier, but at the same time, know the rules of the game that you're playing. GME, MACD, so they're talking about indicators. DWAC, finally barcoding. Finally barcoding. What does a barcode look like? Let's see. Well, it's had a long day, essentially, from 78 to 86 and back down. But when you look at the daily, I think there's an issue here on the daily I noticed earlier. This right here, around the high, the inability to stay above the high of 92.50 is problematic, because we kind of did similar movement back on the 26th of October around this 92/95 area. So the fact that we're failing a couple times or in the same zone, it means that there's some volume there that you got to be worried about. Obviously, it has found a bid today after going as low as 77 or 76. What was the low today? 77.50. Now it's back above 82. So we're kind of still wedged in here. So be aware that there is some overhead volume, but any market at any point can grind through levels. It's just got to get going, but just be aware. Trend is up, but we are running into some resistance on DWAC as well. How are my other trades? Square, 13 cents in the money. DD's flat. Amgen, 546. And Edit's just getting worse at 31 cents out. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Term police in the house. Yeah, I think it's always got to get the terms right. It's not ripping if it's only going up 5 cents. It's just moving up, right? There was a whole bit that Prad and I did on Friday about when it comes to terms and how people kind of verbalize what the stock is doing, especially when it comes to experiences. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. All right, what do we got? Seconds later, it gets murdered. What stock are we talking about here? GME, NVCN, Pfizer. We talked about Pfizer earlier. Everyone's talking about GME, Chipotle on the side. Oh, we got 1.5K likes. Can we get to 2.5 in an hour? We've got how many people? 3,000 people still watching. Even 3,000 people were able to put up with the fire alarm. So you know what the fire alarm did? It decided to take a break. For everyone who's still watching, the fire alarm hasn't been on in a while. So that's for everyone who stuck through it. Their ears got a little break there, and here we are sitting on 1.5K in likes. I still got another K for my target. Can we get to the target? Hydrate? Yeah, I got my big water bottle right here. We're gonna get some water in me at some point. I also need to get lunch. For anyone who's wondering, I know Valeriia does this. I actually have the lunch menu. Let me go through this real quick. Lunch today. Well, once I'm done the show, I'll go get lunch. Grilled jerk chicken with Caribbean rice and beans. So that's lunch for today, guys. Hopefully there's a decent portion left because I'm feeling pretty hungry at the moment right now. AA, oh yeah, somebody was talking about AA earlier. And man, AA is, look at that move. Right through 65. It's been setting this up for a few days now. And AA finally got through 65 a few days ago, kind of worked the zone back and forth. And then we finally took off today. And yeah, strong run. It took about an hour to run up from 66 to 71. And now we're kind of tapering off. Hey, it's a quiet market. You're going to get this. After a strong run up in this market, you're going to have some fallback on a lot of these names, right? So I've talked about stocks. I've gone through everything that I'm doing. Apart from individual names, is there anything else you guys want me to talk about, like trader psychology, experiences, whatever? Just put it in the chat, because I think talking about names is great. But when there's very little to go on and these names aren't absolutely taking off, then there's very little to hide. Obviously, PTON is a name that's in the news, and we've talked about that 40 level, but it's coming off now. It's at 38.62. We're not going to do anything with it until 35 even. So here we go. What are people talking about? My long-term positions. I'm a futures trader, so my positions are all futures contracts. So I've got NASDAQ contracts. So what I do is if I'm here, I trade the S&P futures on the floor, and my personal accounts, I hold NASDAQ futures contracts. So they're quite expensive. So in terms of margin, so I just deal with that and that alone. That's where my strength is, right? So I just kind of do my thing there because that's where my strength is, and I can just work. I know the rules of the game, and I can also obviously pick and choose names as well, but I prefer to just kind of focus on the futures just because I kind of get a little bit better with it. I'm better with it. I spend 3 screens. When I'm not on the show here, I spend 3 screens for one futures contract. So I definitely understand what I'm looking at when it comes to that. All right, pivot points. I used to use pivot points. Don't really care for them anymore. How to get a real book order. Order book, you're going to need to get market data. You need live market data to get market depth. I imagine that's what you mean. So find a provider that can get you live market data, and then a software can integrate that into a way of displaying it to you. So in eSignal's case, they have a market depth function as well. Let's just say that you did not have, let's say you did not have P-Pro 8 software, like our internal software. eSignal's market depth looks like that, right? So it'll show you the size here at the prices and whatnot. So you need to be aware of, and this is from the NYC Open Book, by the way. So I can go through the different ARCA books or the different individual books. What you're seeing here is going to be equivalent to what the consolidated depth looks like here. This is the single book. If I want to see individual ECNs and market makers, I guess, I can go to the NASDAQ level 2, get theirs. But odds are you probably want something like that, right? That's eSignal's market depth. But the only reason I can show this to you is because I have live market data, and you need live market data with depth access. So more than just level 1 prices to actually be able to see this. So it can get pricey. You need, when it comes to this kind of stuff, it's easy for it to get expensive. Where can you get it for free? I don't even know where you can get that stuff for free, because it's a feed, and it's a feed that's cost something at some place. What is good volume? What is good volume? When it comes to volume, it's relative to each market that you're trading, but it's not going to be a straight up answer. But I can tell you right now, 178,000 shares on CMG is not good volume to trade. So the lower the volume, the bigger the spread, and that becomes more of the issue, right? So you don't want to trade something with low volume. As a beginner, find an average daily volume, I would say. If you're starting out and you want to just start out trading and be able to trade and figure out the big names that you want to play with, I think somewhere north of 3 to 4 million shares a day, average would be a good starting point, and then you have to add in price criteria like stocks below a certain price and stuff like that, right? You don't want to get these, like Tesla does absolutely nuts in terms of volume, but it's also it's like done 10 million shares, a $900 stock. You're not going to get, like, that's probably not the best way to go. Amazon, 2 million shares, $3,000 stock. I mean, you got to play back and forth with the volume and the price point of the stock, right? I'm just saying, because to me, Citigroup at 12 million shares, that's something that almost like a benchmark of stocks that you look at. Obviously, there's going to be other names that are going to be moving. All right. How did you master risk management? By losing a lot. You learn what works, and you just got to figure out what the patterns in the market are. So for me, for stock that's trending, I noticed that anytime it dips, that's the location where the market rejected the downward movement, counter trend movement. So I'm going to start moving my stops there, right? So risk management is all about, first thing, you like a trade, great. How much do you think space you have before your first exit? Okay. How much do you need to risk to take the trade? Because I always want to know those two things first, right? How much can I potentially make, and how much do I have to put up in risk for it to take it? If I don't know the answers to those things, I don't take them. So that's a very base foundation for risk management. Know what you're risking. Always have an exit point in mind before you even get into a trade, because you need to know where you're wrong, because you're going to be wrong. You know, if you're 60-40, 60% wins, 40% loss, that means you're going to be wrong 4 out of 10 times. So know when to be wrong and how to be wrong. And then you just got to do that. How much did you start trading with? Well, I've been at this firm since the beginning. So it's all house money, not house money, but it's company money. We're proprietary, right? So it's all the firm's money that we're trading, at least here. Now, for everyone at home, it all depends on your account size and what you want to trade. If you're brand new, do not margin. My suggestion, start small, learn, and then slowly work your way up, because the last thing you want to do is leverage and then be put in a position where you take a big hit for no reason, not no reason, but like some weird thing for some reason, and all of a sudden you're over leveraged and you owe the brokerage money. That's not a position you want to be in. So if you're brand new, don't leverage. Just start out with a cash account and then work your way out. And once you know the game, once you're a few years in, you know the game and how it's played, then maybe you'll be more comfortable leveraging, I think. That's just for the sake of everyone's financial health. Disclaimer, I'm not, let me go read what legal put down at the bottom. This is not financial advice. I'm going to read it word for word. Legal notice. Views and opinions expressed on Trader TV are provided for information purposes only and should not be taken as a solicitation of an offer to buy or sell a security. All right, so this is not financial advice. That's based on legal. But I'm just saying, for the sake of your financial health, that you should be smart about how you use leverage, because it can actually not work out for you. How to deal with losses. I might be quite far back in the comments too. I'm kind of going through them. How to deal with losses. Many trades a day would you recommend? How many trades a day? Each one's different, but I would say the cutoff point is when you start to think differently. If you have an idea in mind and after a few trades of losses, all of a sudden you're thinking differently, then odds are that you probably should stop, right? You need to be, if you're not grounded in your approach, and it's easy for me to say this because I've been called a robot by many people, but the approach has to be the same every single time. Your approach to the trade, your logic behind the trade, the read that you're making has to be the same every single time. And if it's not going to be the same and you're emotionally like, oh, you know what, I lost, but I'm going to try to get it back right now because I see this opportunity, it's not going to work out well. So let's take a step back, right? It's just, there's no answer. Everyone's going to be different, but you'll know because you're not thinking about the trade and what needs to be done. You're thinking about how much money you need to make back or how much money you want to make, right? So at that point, take a step back. Sizing of your positions depends entirely on risk. So I think a good example of sizing is like the futures positions. Because my cutoff point for futures, I don't risk any more than 40 points. 40 points on the futures is about $2,000 a contract. So I don't risk any more than 40 points. So if I have to put up 40 points in risk, I'm going to take less size, versus if I have to put up 10 points in risk, I'm going to take more size. Now, I've kind of figured out a little table for myself of, if I have 15 points in risk, I'm taking this size. If I have 20 points in risk, I'm taking this size. If I have 40 points in risk, I'm taking this size. Know that for yourself. Everyone's going to be different, right? So have a little like condition of, if I'm putting up $1 in risk for this stock, I'm going to take this size. Or it also depends on the stock volatility as well, but at least have a table in place so that you can actually immediately be like, this is the size I should be taking. How do you determine your size when you are scalping? I have no clue because I'm not a scalper. That's a question for Sean. So save that question for Sean when he's back on. How did you master risk management? And how would you advise small account holders? I think I mentioned it. Just grow your account, no margin. It's easy to want a margin, but again, for financial health's sake, just learn slowly, start small, less shares. It's okay. It's a learning process and it takes time. You don't need to, just because you started now doesn't mean you need to be, make a ton of money now. So just be very, very smart about how you use that small amount, because you can grow it, but if you leverage it too high, too fast, it could actually work against you. And at that point, it's not a good thing. How did you master risk management? Practice, losses. Any thoughts on crude oil? Let's take a quick look at crude because, trailing stops too. Somebody, Steven, asking about trailing stops. I mentioned trailing stops, right? So I like to look at where it hesitated last, and that's where I'll put my trailing stop for like Amgen, which is up like 6 something right now. What is it up? It's up 598 right now. I'm looking at where it hesitated last, right? So right here, once we cross 40, we hesitate around 240. I'm going to round that down to 240 even. But I also know that's a round number, and we kind of broke through that fairly quickly. So I'm immediately moving the stop to 239. That's kind of how I approach trending moves. It's easier to put a trending stop on a stock that's it's a trail stop on a trending stock versus a stock that's kind of chopping around. Because when a stock is chopping around, you can't move the stop. So you're stuck in a position where you're in the money, but you're not in the money that makes sense to move the stop. So at any point, the stock can still turn against you. And that's part of the game. You kind of have to live with that because that is trading, and that's how the game is played, unfortunately. So if you want to try to get these winners, you're going to have to sometimes move your stop. And if it doesn't warrant moving your stop, it hasn't gone far enough, then you kind of move it through. I would only ever move my stop if it actually broke out of like some top end level, right? Let's just take a quick look at Facebook. If we were to break out Facebook, taking that 219.50, Facebook taking the lows now. If we were to take out, say we went long, right? We went long Facebook, and we went long here. Let's just say that, right? 221. I already know that there's going to be a ton of resistance. So I won't be able to move the stop on the long until we broke above the high, which would be 226. So everything in between, I'm going to be kind of taking profits, partials here and there because I know we're working with resistance. And if we get near the high of the day, I can say, you know what, maybe I can warrant moving the stop because it could triple top or something, but I need to have a reason to do it, right? A triple top is an issue. That's a problem. The market can turn around. So I'll do that then. But for the time being, until that happens, I won't move the stop. If we're sitting at 223 and I'm long at 221, I'm not going to move the stop. If it's at 225, then I'll move the stop, right? So we'll leave that be. Crude oil, we were talking about. Crude oil has been... gas prices are nuts right now. Down 2% on the day, but look at crude's trend, right? Respect the trend. Even with today's fallout, it's still got another $3.5 before it breaks the support point. So this could just be a nice little break on crude before we continue moving up. Based on the way it's moving and based on the angle of movement since late December, crude's going to be a problem, especially to the upside. What else we got? Trade management. While in the trade, what do you do to keep your hands off your trades? Well, for anyone who's seen, or actually, I think I've explained it, is that especially in the morning, once I'm positioned in and I have no reason to move the stop, I'm doing something else. So in the mornings, I'm doing Spanish, or I'm doing learning Spanish, or I'm watching Netflix or something. I'll just keep my hands off. I'll keep myself occupied with something else because I don't need to stare at the screen because the trades will take care of themselves. The stops are in place. At some point, the alerts will let me know if a new trade comes in, and I also will be alerted to when I need to move the stop because I can also put an alert for that, right? So I just do something else to keep myself occupied in the meantime while I'm waiting for trades to work out. How will a Fed rate hike in March impact markets? 25% versus 50. Well, once you double up, it's all about what the expectation is. If the market's expecting 25 and you get 50, the market's going to freak out, right? 100%. If the market's expecting 50 and it gets 50, at that point it's going to be, well, what does the economy look like now? It's going to be also based on the words and the Q&A and all that other stuff that happens. So it's all about what the expectation is versus what the reality is or what actually happens. Sometimes you get a relief like, oh, you know, if the market's expecting a half point and you get a quarter point, it's like, oh, okay, that's much better. That's much better than what we thought was going to happen. So let's rally now, right? So it's all about the tempering of expectations. There's I think a web page out there. I forgot who it was. Maybe Neil has it. Maybe Prad has it. That shows the ratio or the probability of something of one cut versus, or not cut, one raise versus another raise, or what the expectation is for the next meeting, right? And I think it was like 34%, I think was changed to for a 50 basis point cut or a raise, 50 basis point raise. So that, so the expectation is has now increased for 50 basis points from the 25 has gone up from whatever it was to 34% probability, right? So, and that's all, you know, you can always be wrong. These guys are based on economic outlook and what they're thinking, but that can always change. All right, what else we got here? How many times will I average into a position and at what percent of shares to buy first, second, and third? Well, I will only do that if it's planned. I will plan to get into a trade at a specific price, like on the future side of things. If I know if I know I can only risk 40 points on the max end of it, and we are 50 points away, but I really don't think I'm going to be able to get the 40 points, because that's the edge of my risk profile. What I'll do is I'll take half and then plan to average into the rest of it. So by the time I get my entire position, it's 40 points max risk, right? So I can bring the price down a little bit. But if it's not planned, I don't do it, right? So you got to be smart with how you choose to average, because you should not always just average just to get your price down. I'm assuming you're going long, trying to average the price down. It's better off to plan it ahead of time, and if it's not part of the plan, don't do it. As I noticed this, I'm looking over at Facebook failing that 220 break to the upside. Oh boy, Facebook is in for a ride to the downside right now. Man, okay. Maybe we should start looking at Facebook for a potential short. What's the market doing? Backed off these, backed off the 15s, so we're definitely going to be looking at that now. Biggest loss. I've taken some fairly large hits. In terms of dollar figures, they could be fairly high. I don't want to say too much, but they're definitely in the high five-figure mark on an individual trade. So, and these losses can easily happen very quickly because of the sizes that I trade too. So it's definitely an issue, but that's part of the game, right? If you choose to play the game and you choose to play the game with some decent size, then it's going to be a problem when it doesn't work out in your favor. So expect the losses. They're coming at some point. You can't avoid them. I don't know how as a trader you can go around being like, I'm going to win every single time. So you just got to learn to lose. That's the reality of it. You got to learn to lose, be okay with it, and move on. And as I say that, Facebook taking out 219 and now at 218.50. So largest was like, it was high five figures. You could argue six, but it depends on the way it was closed out. It was high five figures anyways. The largest position I've had, individual position for a single trade, it was 400,000 shares of Regions Financial. Is Regions even still around? RF? Is this even still around? Yeah, it was RF. It was this one. It was years and years ago, though. But that was the largest position I've had. That one actually was a loss, too, but it wasn't that big of a deal because it was a smaller loss, even with that share size. But it's been a while since I've taken massive stock positions. But, you know, play the stock game. Or play the futures position anyways. What else we got? Biggest loss, Spirit. Oh, individual stock names, yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things. How long did it take you to become consistently profitable? So I mentioned to you guys, like, our the way our office works here is that there's, like, when you're starting off, you're a graduate, you're a trainee, right? So you have limited risk, limited I guess cash access to cash and whatnot. And then once you get past a certain amount of what you made per month, then you get to graduated status or a full-time trader, right? So for you to become consistent, that means odds are you're at a point where you're graduated. So for me to graduate, the first time it took me, the first time it happens, it took me about 6 or 7 months. But it all depends on how you get there too. I've seen people graduate much faster doing other things and then absolutely go inconsistent after, because their approach to doing it is not because they learned how to, I guess, handle all the things that come with trading. It's just the fact that they did something, worked out well, and they made money, kind of crossed the threshold, at least in our company, and then they are learning their lessons of how to be consistent afterwards. So it does take time. It's just one of those things. Arun, GME's at 117. Oh boy, GME going at 117. Okay, we're gonna have to look at fades on GME potentially if we get the setup. But we can't fade this. The trend is way too strong on this. And the other one was Facebook. That's or Facebook or Meta. Meta's taking off right now. What is it at? 118.53. We definitely got to look at Facebook because that's the easier trade of the two. We're looking for a trend fade of GME, which is running to the upside. So that's not that big of a deal. That's going to take some time, and you got to respect the trend. But at the same time, Facebook has broken the lows and it's failing south of 219 now. So we got to find a way to get into Facebook or Meta at this point. And I am not going to chase this down. There's no way I'm chasing this down. I'm going to wait for a move back to the upside to see if I can grab it on the run up into the 219 area. So hold on. There's a lot. What is the training program like? To be honest with you, it's been such a long time. Every trader, every manager has their own approach to the training program. But typically, what you get is a base foundation of, hey, you should look at the market. You should look at the market like this, and then Greg will sit down and work with our traders and kind of go over what their trades were, what they need to fix, and all that other stuff. So I don't know what his approach is. Next time you guys have him on, definitely ask that question. But he gives you the foundation of what you should look at, and then it's on you to kind of put it all together. At what point would you stop trading? I would never stop trading. Like for me, it's not about the money. It's about the puzzle aspect of it. And I think I mentioned that to you guys yesterday, is that for me, I sit down every day and I'm looking at a different market. I'm looking at something different that's changed. So I want to know what I can do. I want to be able to catch whatever the message is that the market's telling me. I sit down, look at the futures, and what is the market telling me today? What should I do? Right? And that's the game for me. That's what kind of brings me back day to day, is what is the message? What is the puzzle? What can I figure out? And then, I'm sure you've heard this before, is money is just like a way to keep score, right? But for me, it's the puzzle. That's why it's interesting too. That's why so many people get driven back to this, even if you leave. If you come here, you lose, and you're like, oh man, I'm out of money. Let me go do something else, and then you come back again. For some people, it's the exciting part of it, but for me, it's also the problem solving, the puzzle aspect of it that's kind of brings me back. So, can I be 65 and doing this? Absolutely. I have no reason to stop. None. Right? So it's just it's a different game, and it's a game that is not just exciting, but it's also because it's different. Every day is different. Some days it's going to be very quiet. Some days it's going to be really exciting. Some days it's easy. Some days it's hard. That's what brings you back. So, yeah. They have the best equipment in the team to execute versus a solo trader with a mobile phone. Yeah, we think about the amount of servers that we have, the data access we have, the feeds, the cost of putting up this infrastructure to execute with direct market access, right? So we have access to a ton of different venues that we can send an order through, right? And then we have ways to kind of route orders through multiple venues. So it's just one of those things where depending on what you put up front, firms obviously put up a lot of money to get that kind of access, to get that kind of infrastructure in place. The more infrastructure you have, the better and easier things are, and the more access to information you have. And that's just part of it, right? That's a part of it in anything, though. It's not even just trading. In any aspect of business, the more infrastructure you have, the more money you have, the more access to information you have, the more of an advantage you have, right? For us, it's speed. It's our own software. It's access to information. Our servers are sitting in New Jersey, close to the New York servers. So we are paying for all that stuff. So we do have access to, a little bit more, and also our brokers. Who's clearing our trades? Like, I personally don't know, but who's clearing our trades? Probably someone that's not just handling retail volume. Retail volume is probably flowing through different brokers, right? So who are we paying for a much more faster broker? I don't even know if that's even a thing, but I'm just saying all that stuff is factored in when it comes to costs, right? Are you on commission? So traders here, yeah, we split the profits. So that's how it works, at least for this show, or not show, this company. Yeah, all right. Well, there's more questions there. On PTON short, yeah, okay, we were looking at PTON. How old am I? Well, let's just say I started when I was right out of high school. I got lucky. Not something I was looking to do, but it is something that I got very lucky with. So I may look a little bit older than I am, but I'm not. I'm not going to put up the age, but I'm not too far away. So yeah. Arun likes W's. I love W's. Of course. Who doesn't, though, right? You like to be winning. You like to be on the winning side of things. How do you determine when to move your stops? Seems counteractive for following your own rules. Well, like I said, you move your stops when the market is in a trend and it's hesitated. So anytime it's hesitated back, I'll move the trend, because you need to lock in profit at some point. You can't let it go forever. So how do you lock in profit? Where it hesitates is where I move the stop. Amgen is $7 in the money, but my stop is sitting south of 240 at 239. I move them as necessary, not because I want to capture more and more. It's because I'm moving them to a location where I'm like, this is the right location to do it at, right? It's trending, let it go trend. If it wants to trend, it's going to trend, let it go trend. When you say chase, could you say if you were long or short? Well, chasing is just wanting to get the entry and not waiting for the fill, right? Like it's moving and I want it now, so I'm going after it. Even though it's moving further and further away, I'm still going after it because I want the price now. That's what I mean by chasing, but you can chase in either direction, right? So it doesn't really matter. What are your thoughts on PTON at 38 now? Joanna, okay, PTON, 38, what do we got here? Ooh, nice little blowout at 40. That's what you want to see too. When they do this with stops north of 40, one-time flush north of 40, you gotta, at this point, you gotta look at this same area, right? It's at 37 to 36. It's a problem. That 40 is going to be a problem, but if I was long, I would have cashed them out, and then I would let the 36.50 go. If it's just part of, I'm okay with the idea of giving up another $2 or $1.50 for the sake of seeing if we can go back to 40 again. So for sure, I would have cashed them out by now. After seeing what that 40 looked like, I would definitely wait. Or I would definitely get out some to lock in profit in the event that it actually turned around. But I want to give it the chance. I'm always going to give it the chance. Until the trend fails, I will stay in it with some piece until the trend fails. So it's just a matter of when does the trend fail and letting it go. When you're in a trending stock, you got to give it the opportunity to kind of let it go. What level are you looking at for a long on Facebook? I'm not looking for a long on Facebook. I'm looking for a potential short against this 320, and then I'll use 222 or 220 again, and I'll use 222 as my stop, or somewhere north of 222. I might even go slip a little 50 cents past that at 222.50, but I'm definitely looking against this 220. Oh, looks like the guys are back from their lunch break and back on with the bell. So before we lose even more viewers, guys, hit the likes before you guys take off. We got 1.6K. I guess 2.5 is not happening, but can we get to 2K? 2K, that would be great. I think 2K would be a nice little closeout. We did 2K yesterday, and then we'll do it again. Let's see if we can do it again. All right, where do we go? Square can go back to 100. Yeah, it can, but the setup was there, so I'll take that chance. It's out 90 cents right now, but that's a chance I'm taking based on the read that I made, right? And somebody was asking about my Amgen trade. What was the read on Amgen? Well, here. First thing I do, like I do with any trade, I look at the daily. Did we break anything on the daily? Yeah, we broke that high from going back to the 14th. So that's about 236 and change. We got above. Strong. Okay, great. We've cleared the high. Now I can work it long. And it looks like north of 236 is the right place to go. So once we broke the daily with strength, overnight movement, and it wasn't just like a single trade up there. We actually traded multiple times through there. So once we broke that right off the open, I just put a bid down, like I'll take 236. It went against me $2. And then that whole read that I had made based on the daily finally turned around, and here we are sitting in a nice little winner there. So that's pretty straightforward in terms of how I make my read. I always look at the daily first, and then I'll go to the smaller chart to figure out the trend. Right now I'm just managing the trade. As it's going, I'm just managing the trade. Nothing else to do. All right. Arun, what was that, scalp? Do you have traders that primarily just scalp? Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has their own approach. And on this floor, you'll see some people that do a hybrid of both what I do and scalp. And then other people just want to scalp. So it's a matter of finding what works. If your personality is more geared towards scalping versus doing what I do, which is sit around doing a whole lot of nothing once you're in a position, if you're more geared towards scalping, then you're going to scalp. That's probably better for you versus me. Just, let's go look at Netflix. Let's go watch something, whatever the case is. So Prad is back. Is Prad back? Is he in the chat? No, he's not there just yet. Okay. Oh. No, we won't let Prad in. Prad's going to have to stay out there. Our systems are all fingerprint scanners, so I don't know if Prad's fingerprint's in there, but you may have to just keep ringing that doorbell. That does not exist. All right. What do we got here? PTON, we talked about PTON. What's the split? I'm not going to get into the split. That's if you're part of a floor, then everyone can figure out their own approaches, but every floor has a different split, and let's not talk about this. Trading ages you? Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because you essentially are going through an accelerated process of all of the possible emotions that you can go through throughout your life in a very short span, because you'll be frustrated, you'll be happy, you'll be sad, you'll be close to giving up, everything, right? Trading, one thing trading does, it definitely exposes every possible weakness that you have in your character. Definitely. I'm not 44. Someone guessed 44. Do I really look 44? Damn, I'm not 44. Not there yet anyways. JD's, he says I'm somewhere between 38 and 42. I'm not in that range either, my friend. Clearly I look like I am, but I'm not there. All right. What do we got here? Trading is brutal. Yep. Arun is 39. Definitely not. Do you also trade commodities, gold and silver? I don't do commodities. I'm sorry. I know I'm missing a lot of you guys because I keep scrolling up and then new comments come in and then the chat just scrolls all the way down. And then I got to deal with the new comments. So I scroll back as much as I possibly can, but I definitely try to get to the older comments. Do you also trade commodities? We don't trade. I step into gold on Fed days and only on Fed days. I'll do GDX. I'll do the gold miners on Fed days. The reason being, I think the relationship on Fed days between gold and the Fed is much simpler, and interest rates is much simpler than trying to deal with an index like the S&P, because not everyone is affected negatively by the same news, right? Just because the news comes out doesn't mean it takes, market may take off, but given that the index is made up of 500 different names, banks are going to move faster than other names in the index. So I'd rather just deal with gold. So on Fed days, I either go with GDX or TLT, which is the 20-year treasury, right? So I'll go with either of the two. Most likely, though, I'll go for gold. What happened to Prad? He will be back soon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. You might be stuck with me for another day. So if you are stuck with me for another day, we're at 1.7K in likes and we got half an hour. Can we get another 300 likes before 2 o'clock? And then we'll go back to the afternoon show with the guys there. and we'll do that. So 300 likes is what I'm looking forward to, or trying to get my hands on before the day's up. We did 2K yesterday. We've got 2,800 people watching. Maybe we can do 2K again today. That would be very, very helpful for my case. I'm still waiting for PTON on the short side, by the way. And every time we talk, the alarm goes off. So how do you decide to take a long or short position at the open? Hey, it depends on what the stocks are doing. I do my analysis on the daily. If the setup is on the long side, I go for the long. If it's on the short side, I go for the short. Depends entirely on what the setup is, right? I look at the daily, and I think I mentioned that quite a bit. Tell Randy to stop playing with the fire alarm. Actually, Randy is doing what he normally does, which is not work. So he is not here. I have no clue where he is, but he's not working. The floor is still waiting to get Prad and Valeriia's new desk set up. We're still waiting on that. The ladders are still around. Cameras are still being placed. Mookie saying AMD is looking strong. Let's see what AMD is looking at. Oh yeah, AMD is looking. But I mean, do I really want to look at AMD after knowing what I did with Nvidia, which was give up on that trade? Ugh. AMD. Let's take a quick look at that daily on AMD. What's AMD doing? Okay, AMD north of 130. I'll play there. Not right now, but definitely north of 130. I think that should open up something, whether it's a false breakout or even just an actual breakout that I can actually work with. So we'll put up AMD north of 130. All right, we'll leave that aside. All right, what does your wife think of your trading? What does my wife think of my trading? That's a very good question. She knows nothing. She understands none of it. So she stays in her world, I stay in mine, and I've tried a few times to explain to her, but she's trying to learn, not unlearn, but at least to understand. But it's just so complicated that I just be like, oh, it was a good day. Yes, it was a great day. Or it was a bad day. Yeah, it was, it wasn't the greatest. That's it. That's as far as it goes. The details of it, I think, it doesn't really, doesn't really matter. I think it'll just be too much. There we go. We just got Facebook there, just south of 219.50, and Facebook, a nice little swipe up towards 220. Are we going to get this rally? Are we going to get a late day rally on Facebook? I'll be so bothered by that. Anyways, trading exposes strengths as well. Well, it definitely helps you work on your strengths, but more so I noticed that it actually exposes your weakness, because there's a lot of things that you need to be a rounded out trader. What's that? News? Oh, hell no. Nope. Don't want part of that. Nope. I want no part of that business, because if this is a news-based pop, and we fell apart $5 that day, from 36 to 30, and we're popping off of not leaving Europe. Yeah, okay. We'll reevaluate this Facebook trade, but definitely not going to participate if this move is going to be based on that alone. So here we are waiting for Facebook to kind of settle in, and yeah. So which chart is this? Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. What have we got? Citigroup. All right. Oh, Facebook coming back down, eh? I took a small hit on that too. Actually, did I even get the execution? Yeah, I took a small hit. Yeah, I took a small hit on that. I'm going to reevaluate this Facebook trade, because I don't want to get caught if in the event that we get, Neil's got it.
Yeah, just come to me, because that 220 break, there was a good breakdown on Facebook at 220. Make sure my mic's on. Yeah, it is. And then it came back up there, reload, didn't take it at 218, any profit. And then that spike on news, blind luck, it didn't actually hit my trail, because I got the re-up in front of 220, and then it just went a few pennies away from stopping me out. But snap news, and then it comes right back in. So I don't know that that's going to invalidate the trade. But we'll see. Obviously, if it now bounces off of 218.50, you have a bit of a different environment going into that. But I did want to come back, because I was talking about the chat about GameStop. We had GameStop a couple times. We had a good short off the first 114, and then a tight one off 114 again. That could have worked if I had hung on to it. But then the big level came that 117 up at the top, and I get stopped out the second test of the level. I was right in the pocket with a 116 short. after it had failed. Like, this is it failing off of 117, and on the way back down, get in there twice, average price of 116, exactly what we're looking for, and then it took the top again, and I was not involved in the rollover. So we try to show you guys the entry of that trade, but sometimes when you're making that like scalp short off the high kind of thing, you might get stopped out and you might not find yourself back into the trade in a consolidation like this, and now you're going to see GameStop falling off like an absolute rock. But yeah, that Facebook, that's so dirty, right? Like you get that 220 break, which just sits there as a floor. It breaks down, trend reversal, and then that one little newsprint just takes everything out, and now we're right back to the low. So, I mean, hopefully this is going to end up working out for the afternoon show, but a bit frustrating because that was really close to stopping me out on a trail on that Facebook. We'll see what happens here. Lots moving in the market trying to come back off. And oh man, the bell is like, if you guys watch Game of Thrones, the bell is like when Theon takes Winterfell and he's like, I'm going to kill the dude on that horn when they're trying to scare them out. But anyways, that's what that bell is right now. It's like, I just want to break the thing. Just want to break it. It's crazy. Hopefully it'll stop at some point.
All right. And back to me. Yeah, that bell, someone's like, can we turn that bell off? We want to. We would love to, but can't. It's a fire code thing. It's a fire alarm bell, by the way. It sounds different. I feel like there might be a cover over it now. But anyways, Facebook. Oh, what did I do? Went for the short, got out of the short, took like a 10-cent hit. And then, yeah. So here it is back towards 218 now on Facebook. That was a dumb decision. Here's a problem I have. This is the reason why I don't scalp. This exposes my weaknesses in scalping, right? The reason I don't take scalps, and the reason I say for me, Facebook is a scalp, because I have nothing on the daily to work with. There's no new levels that I can set up on the multi-day move. So I'm stuck using the intraday move. And when the intraday move happens, well, something like this, where last time we had some news out of Europe or related to Europe, we took off. And if that's the case and we pop like this, because that was an unusual move to the upside, and I was like, oh man, I'd rather just get out and reprice it if it slows down. I want a verification of that if that was the actual case. If that wasn't the case, then, obviously something like this happens where it flushes up, comes back down, and continues on down. So in this case, I give up a small winner, I give up the position for being out of it in the event that it were to come out, because we've been selling for so many days now. At this point, I'm thinking on a single day basis, I got to be very smart about how I trade this, right? So I got to be on top of my game when it comes to managing Facebook, because it can snap back and go back $5. Now that we've done what we've done, yes, I'm out of it, but let's go back up to 220. I'm not going to put the order in. I'm not going to try to get back in. It's not a type of trade that I typically take, but at the same time, I'll be open to the idea. But at this point, I won't force anything. Take the 10 hit, walk away. That's fine with me. All right. More questions coming through. Room broke rule number 1. Yeah, in a way, yeah, I did break rule number 1, but it's also me trying not to be caught offside on something like this, where I know that I don't have the foundation for the short as solid as I would like. So I'm taking the trade, but if it were to run up on news, we could go right back up to 225. So that's a problem. But I did break rule number 1 on for a quick second there. I'm okay with breaking that rule in that situation. I'd rather miss out than lose a ton of money because I held on against that news. Remember a few days ago when we were coming down strong on Facebook, right here, actually yesterday, we were coming down. I'm like, something ain't right. It looks like someone's unloading. Well, this has a lot to do with the European issue, right? With their Facebook platform in Europe. So it definitely was systematic selling. And if this is the complete, or supposed to be the complete reversal, then if I'm offside on that, it's going to be a problem. So I'd rather not be. So breaking rule number 1 in this situation is different than breaking rule number 1 in, say, Amgen, not taking it because it was meant to be taken, right? That I'm more bothered by that than I am by this. But I mean, that's just no issues at that. What do we got here? What percentage of traders quit? I want to say out of every trading class, which probably has about 10 hires, roughly 10 hires, it might be lower now. half of them don't last longer than a year. And of the 5 that are left, maybe 1 might make it to 5 years. About. I want to say, so 1 in 10 are probably going to have a career longer than 5 years. It's like Mookie said, 90%. So 90% are done. It's in stages. It's not immediate, right? It's not like, oh, immediately you're going to have guys that come in for the money and then don't make the money, and then all of a sudden they're done. And then you're going to have guys that just kind of are struggling for a bit, and then they're done. And then guys that are inconsistent, and then they're like, okay, I can't live like this. It was great when I was younger, but now I'm a little bit older. I can't do this. Then they're done. And then one person will make it through. One person will have an actual longer-term career. So it's definitely, it's not a dangerous business, but it's definitely a hard business to get successful at. But once you get successful, and I've said it before, once you get that skill and you got it right, it's very hard to be taken away from you. The only thing that can take it away from you, and trading is a skill and it can be taken away, but the only thing that can take it away is the market. The market can change on you, and if you don't adapt to it, then you're going to be trying to trade in a market that doesn't suit whatever strategy you have. So you do have to adapt. But that's the only, once you develop the skill, that's the only thing that can take away the skill that you have, right? So it's definitely worth learning as long as you can always be on the fly and learning. What's the max you won and lost on a trade? I'm not going to get into that, but it's the the high and the low are roughly the same. It's just with one is negative, one's positive, but it's definitely, I mentioned that earlier. And if you want to wonder, it's go back to when I was talking about share sizes and whatnot. Top Dog, Boomer out. Thank you, sir, for coming through. I know a lot of people. It's been a long day. I know a lot of people, and you guys are stuck listening to me talk for the last 3 hours. Prad's not here, so you can't even like chirp him. So I'm here just kind of going through questions. Hopefully I can answer questions. I've got a decent amount of experience. So hopefully I can answer questions that you guys have. A lot of you guys are newer traders, so I do my best. Obviously, I'm trying to take positions as well at the same time. But you can see what I'm sitting on, right? Amgen, $7.27 in the money. DD out 16, Edit out 62, and Square out $1.21. So that's it. I'll manage those out, and we'll close out the day with those. I'm not going to add anything more. Futures didn't get high enough to that 45.25, so we're not taking any shorts there, not yet anyways. So it's still dead center. Not going to do anything with it. We're going to wait for something else to come through on the futures. Prad ringing the doorbell. Well, Prad may not have left the house yet, so who knows? Which brand is the panel? First Alert? I have no clue. I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere. It's the buildings alarm thing, so I have no clue where the bell is or any of that stuff. So we'll just leave it up to the guys that are dealing with the fire stuff to kind of do that. Do you use standard deviation in your trading? I do. I'm not a big mean reversion kind of guy. I don't do mean reversion type of trades, but there is logic to that, and I'm not well versed in it, so I'm not gonna get too caught up in the standard deviation approach. But what I do like to do is I would use levels, right? And in a way, you can argue standard deviation if you were to be like, if you take a daily chart, you apply the standard deviation, and then if it's gone too far, too fast, relative to how it's moved. But what if it's having a special kind of day? What if it's like, just there's news, good news, and it just takes off, and it's been quiet for a while. So it's going to tighten up the range, and then all of a sudden explodes past the standard deviation. At that point, it's not going to make sense, right? That's my only sticking point with standard deviation. If you have a wide range, like say GME did, and what I mean by GME is like not the crazy moves to like $400 or $500. What I'm talking about is like right here from say July or June of 2021 till the end, the moves were wide, right? So relatively, you could argue that standard deviation in this case would work out well because it's ranging. If it were to take off to the upside, you're going to get blown up. In a situation like this, standard deviation is not going to work, right? So there's an approach to it. I'm not well versed in it, so I kind of stay away from it. I understand it though, but again, I'm not going to get too caught up with that. What else we got here? Acknowledge on the panel, my dad owns a fire safety business. Well, this is actually, these guys are actually, this is just a bell, right? We're in a commercial building. So at the bottom, they're testing the fire alarms and the doors and exits and all that stuff. So they're just testing the individual doors. So we're just like, okay, if you're testing, you're testing. We can't do anything about it. So we don't know. There's nothing. I don't think we can do anything on our end to actually turn it off or anything. And they're like, we don't have access to the bells. We don't have a panel that we can go to. They're just like, you know what? Deal with it. So, all right. What do we got here? Are we at 1.8K? Guys, we got 13 minutes left. We got 2,700 people left. I know there's 200 likes out there that are just sitting there. They're just sitting there not watching what Prad likes to call lurkers. All those lurkers just log in and like and then log back out. That will be much appreciated. We're trying to get to 2K. We're trying to do a 2K average while Prad's gone. And then when Prad comes back, be like, hey, Prad, you know, we did 2K without you. Can we get to 3K? Can we get Platinum Prad back on set here and get it to 3K? So I think that is one of those things that I'd like to be able to tell him when he does come back. Be like, Prad, 2K is doable, man. You guys can do it. You and Valeriia, there you go, 1.9, 100 more, and we get to 2K. There you go, 100 more, and we can get to 2K. We call it 2K average, and then, hey, Prad comes back. We tried for 2,500, but clearly the bell was not on our side. It was resistance against the uptrend of the likes. But tomorrow, the bell situation is not going to be a factor. It's going to be taken care of, and we're going to take care of that. We're going to get to 2,500 at the very least, and 2K for sure. All right, what do we got here? NASDAQ will be red today. I mean, I appreciate movement. I don't really care what's direction. And I think as traders, you shouldn't care about the direction either. I know everyone's got individual portfolios, but remember, if the market's going down, you can also go into inverse ETFs to hedge or to play the opposite side. So even if the market's going down, profit take and then hedge it, or you can actually use the inverse ETFs like, oh man, I opened my mouth and I don't remember. It's not TQQ. Is it SQQ? Ultra Pro Short, yeah. So the inverse ETF, SQQQ, is the inverse of the QQQ, which is the ETF for the NASDAQ 100. So when the NASDAQ goes down, SQQ goes up. So that way you can actually play the downside move without going for the shorts for everyone who's uncomfortable going for shorts, right? So you should be just there for movement, not necessarily just one direction. Now, I can understand some people just do buying only. At that point, yeah, you do care for direction. But for the time being, we're just going to, play both sides. As futures too, we can play both sides anyways without any issues. What do we got here? What else am I looking at? There you go, SQQ. TQQ is the triple leverage, though, I believe, right? So the issue with TQQ is it triples up the movement of the day. So in today's case, NASDAQ is up 0.8, but the TQQ is up 2.3% because it's 3 times the move. So you're leveraging the move 3 times. So TQQ is great for the up move if you are okay with the triple the move, or SQQ is the short side, so the inverse. So if the market goes up, if the market goes down, SQQ goes up because they're playing the inverse move. All right, there we go. What about UVXY? You're talking about the VIX. Why don't people like short? Okay, so that's a big thing. People don't like to short, generally speaking, because it's a scary concept, right? As firms like here where we can get in and out and not be too worried about it, but at the same time, it's easy for a stock to run and all of a sudden you're caught short and a stock takes off to the upside, but that can happen on either side, right? The issue with being at home and shorting is that, one, it's going to require margin because your loss is unlimited. Because if you short, you're expecting the market to go down, but the market can only ever go down to 0, or the stock that you're on can only ever go down to 0. Versus if you're short, it can go against you by, 3 times the value. Say you're short at $60, the most you can ever make on that trade is going to be $60, right? $60 per share. But if it were to run against you and it were to gap up, it can go against you $100, $200, $300, $400. So it's an unlimited upside, and that's the issue, right? It's a dangerous concept when you think about it. The game of shorting is very not just dangerous, but it's also an idea that's like, oh man, the losses can be unlimited. And for someone who needs the margin into getting short anyways, that's a big ask, right? So that's why I think short is a very big problem for a lot of retail traders. It's a scary concept, and it's understandably a scary concept, but because it's a scary concept, it allows for opportunities to make a ton of money in it because you can play both sides. You're not just caught going in one direction, right? So if you're playing intraday and you're going to get out by the time the market closes, then definitely, take advantage of the ability. If you're already on margin, then definitely take advantage of the ability to go both sides. But if you're not on margin, don't put yourself in margin just to get the ability to trade short. Just work your account to a size where you're more comfortable, you're consistent, and then you can move on to other bigger, better things, more, I guess, fancy types of trading. And I think short is fancy on that type of trading anyways. This show is suddenly very watchable. I'm glad to show that, there's information that hopefully it helps you guys as well. Smash the like button for me. Guys, we're at 2K. Much appreciated. If you guys want to run that up even some more, for all the lurkers that came out, we got 200 likes from those lurkers. And I don't want to call you guys lurkers, but that's what Prad does, so I'm just going to use his word. But if you guys like the content of this show, just log in, hit the like, and then log out if you don't want, your account associated with it, whatever. Stay on, watch, learn. I'm going to try to deliver as much information as possible till the end of the week. And then Prad's going to be back, Valeria's going to be back, and they're going to do their thing. And, they're going to have the info as well. We're just trying to get up in the YouTube's, get higher ranking in YouTube's algorithm so that more people get exposed to this information. Because I remember yesterday somebody was saying that, hey, I've been looking for a show like this, like the one that Sean and Neil are doing, and Brendan are doing, something like this that's watchable. While you're trading, you can watch it, get ideas, maybe ask some questions that you have, something you don't know about, where we're not just BSing you. We're actually trying to be legit with you. There's no reason for us. This is not, this is not the primary business. The primary business is the trading firm, right? This was more meant as an educational platform, hopefully to kind of just put it out there. One, put the name out there, put the firm's name out there, but at the same time, just provide information for the other offices that we have, because we have offices globally. If you guys are in the chat right now watching, this is meant for those traders, the traders that they just hired, that need education, that they have a trading plan, but they want their traders to have more exposure. So this was essentially the initial idea anyway. So here we are kind of just putting that information out there. We'd love to move up and grab more and more people into our community, as Sean likes to call it, into our little environment here where you're watching the trade, you're getting the trade list. At least that way you're prepared for the day. And it's just a matter of kind of developing rounded out traders with the information and the experience that we have. And the better that we can get, the bigger the environment, the bigger the base that we can get for viewers, the more experienced traders that are going to be out there trading. So at the end of the day, it was meant as an educational platform for the rest of the offices, but obviously going on to YouTube means that it's exposed to everybody, and we're perfectly okay with that. So definitely like, watch, and throw it out there for anyone who doesn't know this exists. Because I think the big thing with YouTube is that I don't watch shows, but I randomly see clips here and there. It's easy to BS, right? It's online. Everybody wants to be online and get some sort of recognition. It's easy to BS. You read a book, then you go talk about it, and hopefully if you say the right words, people will follow you, and that's all you care about, followers, right? It's a shady way to play, and I think there's too many people that get caught up with that idea, and I think we're just trying to bring out more legit, actual base foundational education. And at least when I'm on to I just really want to give my not experience, but I just want to kind of relate in such a way, because I've been there. I've been where you guys are all at, whether you're brand new or if you're experienced. In some fashion, I've kind of gone through it. So hopefully that helps in a way. I'm also not here a whole lot, but I'm just trying to kind of put it out there and give you guys as much information as possible that I can help you guys with. All right, what else do we got? We got a few minutes left before Brendan takes over, and you guys, we got a 2.1K. If you guys want to run to 2.5, much appreciated. Okay, so we got a few minutes left before Brendan takes over and the closing show comes back on. I know Facebook is going to be a big deal. PTON is going to be a big deal. As you guys can see, these are my positions. I've got that one Amgen long still going Well, not. It's kind of come off that 244. It's fallen $2, but hey, we're still up $6 in the money. DD has fallen off 45 cents. Edit's down 62, and Square has gone down $1 or so. So not looking pretty on the 3 longs, but Amgen's still kind of covering the losses in that situation, and we're just waiting for this market. Waiting for this market to make a move, because this is the market we're dealing with. Look at that. That's what we're dealing with. Sideways since 1:15. For the last 45 minutes, we've been here between 7 and 1. So 6-point range in the last 45 minutes as we close out the day. As I close out the day. What are my thoughts on NVCT? NVCT is nuts. I'll just quickly do this before we get near the end here. NVCT is absolutely nuts. Not a fan of like multi-day move. If I don't have multi-day action, it's very hard for me to trade it. And then like it was just a quick move to the upside, quick move to the downside. Here we are. 650 is going to be the marker. If you find a reason to go long, I think you have a reason. If you have a reason to go long, 650 could be your stop point. But I'm just going to wait. I need more information, especially on these type of names. I need more information before I get involved in something like this. It does look like Facebook wants to hesitate around this 220 though. So maybe the shorts are in play, but again, end of the day, markets are up 0.9 on the NASDAQ, 0.72 on the S&P. Late day moves have been a thing lately, so keep an eye out. We might get a reversal in Facebook. You might get a reversal in some of these other names, but keep an eye out for what this market does in the final 90 minutes. So about half an hour after Brendan takes over. So keep an eye out. That's been the name of the game. Amgen's going to go if it's golden. Yeah, the other 3 trades aren't looking too pretty, I know. All right, what else we got? AMC. I'm sure Sean will talk about AMC. Oil names. We talked about oil earlier, so just rewind a little bit and smash the likes as we close up shop. At least as I close up shop. Hey, I've got jerk chicken waiting for me. That's my lunch. So here we go. And Brendan, here we go as we go into your 2 p.m. show.
Thank you, Arun. Welcome, guys, to the close. 2 hours to go in what has been a pretty choppy trading session here. We'll take you right through to 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll have a look at some positive numbers to start things off. Nice look here for U.S. equities at this point this afternoon. 0.72 for the S&P, a full 1% for the Dow. Back to the upside. Same story for the